Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm just hesitating here as I look and see everyone's coming in, just checking the record is open. We were just talking about making sure it's recording. So welcome, everyone. You're joining the Making Hidden Voices Heard Inclusive Behaviour Change in Action, or in practice, as it were. We're going to be spending the morning together looking at inclusivity to reducing health inequalities. Some brilliant actual work that's going on. So we'll just give everyone a second to get started. And I'm going to, yes, I'm just going to check. Sorry, have a look. Now is your last chance to grab a cup of tea if you want one. And I'll do the official welcome to everyone at past, so I'm not saying everything twice. But my name is Ruth Dale, and you are here for the Inclusivity event. Okay. So thank you everyone for coming. I can see it's churning. Do say hello in the chat. It is set so people can come in and out. We know you're at work today, so we know it's busy. So yeah, I'm just monitoring that as it comes in. Thank you so much. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We did toy with the idea of having a fun countdown, to get the suspense going. And then, I don't know, I was like, oh my gosh, no, more tech. Do we need more tech here? Hi, Shannon. Thank you for saying hello and kickstarting that. Please do. Oh, and Victoria. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Sarah. Please do say hello to everyone. And I'm just going to bring up the delegate pack. Okay, so it's just coming up to past. Welcome, 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 everyone. Oh, morning from Edinburgh. Hello, Ben. Sunny Edinburgh, even. Oh, gorgeous. Hi, Nicola. You've got your coffee. Yes, I know, Nicola. With a webinar, it's so hard to gauge energies and to capture energies. So please, we love a few emojis. We love a bit of chat in the chat. So please do chat away and say hello to each other. Pop your LinkedIn's in or any contact details if you want to connect. It's a really fun, fast morning. So we will get started on time, which is, according to me, which is now. So we'll just I can see people coming in, just give them a couple of minutes or up to 50. We had over 270 actually sign up, so which is amazing. We're so grateful because we know how busy you are, and a morning is a lot to give out. So we know that you're going to come in and out as you can. That's absolutely fine. Everything will be recorded. We will be popping an evaluation form in the chat at the end of every session. And so you can enter that as many times as you like. And then one lucky person will be drawn the book giveaway, which we'll come on to in a second. Yeah, AI notes coming in. That's a very good idea. If anyone wants to share AI notes as well, be very interested in how they turn out. Right, I'm just going to bring up the delegate pack. Okay, are we still? Yeah, we're at 68, still churning. So I'll still let people come in whilst before we do the official welcome. Okay, now can you give me a thumbs up if you can see the delegate pack on your screen? Yay, great. Wonderful. I'm going to openly admit I am a Zoom girl and this is Teams. And so it's so different. It's very interesting. Okay, as they're coming in, good morning, Sarah from Barnsley. Oh, brilliant. We've got Barnsley today. Yes, it's being recorded. Josephine, honestly, please don't worry. We're deliberately recording it. We will be putting it straight away on YouTube in full, and then we will break it up into chunks as well for people. So, yeah, all recorded. We know people have to come in and out. All the speakers know, so it's absolutely fine. So I'll get started because it's 1:30. So my name is Ruth Dale. I founded Hidden Voices Heard after 20 years of NHS public health system, local government, internal, working basically 20 years to reduce health inequalities. And at Hidden Voices Heard, we specialise in behavioural insights, which is essentially using the behavioural science stuff to capture the voice of the people the services and are designed for to reduce health inequalities and to make services more inclusive. So it's what we do all day, every day. And we have loads of conversations about inclusivity all the time, which is why we decided to focus on it for this session, because inclusivity is one of those words that gets thrown around a lot. You might see it in strategies, policies, but what does it actually mean? It probably means something very different for everybody. So today is not about this is right or wrong. Today is very open. It's about pausing, reflecting, and everyone is going to be looking at it differently depending on your role. So how it appears for you in your life at home, how it appears for you in your life at work will be different. So we'll be kicking off with Luan and Tom, who I'll introduce in a second. And there's a very good reason we're starting with them, but we're going to kick off with them, and then we're going to head into let me just show you the agenda here. Oh, I'll come back to the thing. We're going to kick into, then we're going to pause and look at inclusion a bit. Unfortunately, Advita can't be here today, but she has very kindly done a pre-record for us. The pre-record will be sent out at the end, just because we didn't want to break up the live feel of the session today. So I'm just going to step in there and just pause to reflect on inclusion with you, please. Really would love you to talk as well on that one. And then we're going to skip into Katherine Knight from Intelligent Health, where they do Beat the Street, which is inclusion at scale, essentially. And then Elisabete Miranda, who will be doing Building Trust with Underserved Communities. So we're going scale, inclusion at scale, then inclusion deep. And then this is actually a favourite of mine, The Power of Better Questions by Katie Tucker. And I love Katie because she's not public sector. She works very closely with public sector, but she brings a fresh voice into the importance of asking the right question. Because if you ask the wrong questions, you go down the wrong road. And it's such an underrated skill, and it's absolutely powerful for inclusion. And then we're going to go into the undefeatables with BWD. All typos, I just spotted one, by the way, are deliberate, okay? For my comms friends. I've got so many comms friends. You've seen things in like half a second. But then we'll be ending with Dr. Paul Chadwick. So he is the CEO of the Behavioural Science Network and Behavioural Science and Public Health Network, but it's broadening and it's got a bigger vision. And I think by the end of today, kind of you might think, oh my goodness, what next? How can I get more help on this? And the network is there to do that. And it's also when we will draw for the prize. So thank you so much. We have a book giveaway just as a thank you for showing up, but also to complete the evaluation form, please. So we've got a book from Katie, Do Penguins Eat Peaches? From Luan and Tom, their recently published marketing psychology book, which is incredible. Building an Inclusive Culture by Advita, and a Brain Fuel journal from us. So we run a Brain Fuel book club on the side, you know, so that you're not busy enough. And we've got a reading companion that we thought would chuck in with it. So please do complete the evaluation form. This will be drawn on the day. So when we're chatting with Paul at the end, don't evaluate Paul because he's, well, I suppose we could, but we'll be drawing then anyway. Okay. So I'm going to stop the share and hand over to our first speakers. So if I'd like to introduce to you Luan and Tom. Now, Luan has trained thousands of business professionals across the world. She has done online courses for LinkedIn, Meta, Google. She is absolutely incredible trainer in social media. We are so lucky and privileged to have her with us today. And Tom is a lecturer, senior lecturer in marketing and behavioural science at Bristol Business School. And he's also, of course, the author of the marketing and psychology book. So together they're going to kickstart us. So I'm going to stop talking and hand over to those guys now. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Ruth, and thank you for everything you've done to organise today, getting everyone together and pulling together an amazing agenda. Tom and I are really delighted to kick this off for you. So we are going to talk about the psychology behind decisions. Before you even logged on 5-10 minutes ago, you've made lots of choices today, whether that's what to eat for breakfast, what you're wearing, whether you're going to dive into your emails or hold them and check them later. You will be making hundreds of more decisions and choices throughout your working day. Now, psychology, the study of how people think, feel and behave, it's there to help us understand how those decisions are made, how we make those choices. And as communicators in our job roles, we have the power to influence those choices, to guide behaviour changes. So in this session, Tom and I are going to share just a few theories that illustrate what might impact your audiences, your stakeholders, and how they make those decisions. And you'll have seen in the delegate pack the structure for today. Ruth has asked us to share and structure this around stop, start, and steal. So we have some theories around things to stop doing, some things to start doing, and for the steal, we've got some resources to help you dive deeper into the topic. So let's start with our stop. Tom, over to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, great to be with you all. Thank you very much for inviting us. I'm going to start with some fundamental principles that some of you may be familiar with about how people think and how they make decisions. So some of you will have heard of, and some of you may even have read, Daniel Kahneman's famous best-selling book called Thinking Fast and Slow. And it's a fantastic book. It's really a summary of his career. He's probably one of the most prominent psychologists of the 20th century, sadly no longer with us. And the key takeaway from all of the theories that he investigated, particularly with his colleague Amos Tversky, was that there are broadly some decisions that we make very quickly, and some decisions where we do stop and think far more carefully. And therefore, sometimes we think fast and sometimes we think more slowly. And he refers to those two different systems as system one, which is broadly based on emotion, where we make automatic, quick decisions, and system two, which is far more cognitive, where we stop and think and evaluate information far more carefully. And if you think about times in your life where perhaps you've done one or two, probably in the supermarket, you very often rely on system one. If you're guided by the offers on that particular day, buying a tin of beans or something on a supermarket shelf, you probably don't think too deeply about that decision. You get guided by sometimes what we call heuristic, rules of thumb that guide you into making a decision one way or the other. Whereas if you're buying a car or something that involves more money, you're probably more likely to focus on system two. Actually, the key to understanding what system one and what system two is actually not necessarily money. It's actually involvement very often. How cognitively involved are you in that decision? So even clothing, which might not be a massive expense depending on where you shop, clothing is probably more of a system two decision. So this is important, that sometimes we rely on emotion, sometimes we rely more on cognition to make a decision. And as I say, there are lots of theories that relate to this in Daniel Kahneman's book and many others as well. There's some great books out there for those of you that want to dive in a bit deeper. Now, if we think about a traditional marketing funnel, and I realize that a lot of you are not necessarily involved in commercial marketing of products or services, but a traditional marketing funnel or a sales funnel, sometimes it's called, often follows the AIDA model: awareness, interest, desire, action. And the thing to pay attention here is that cognitive involvement is often only the starting point. Very often to drive awareness and for that to lead to sales, you have to go through an emotional level of involvement too. So people might become aware of a brand or a product or a service, but they then have to feel that they want it. They have to show an interest and a desire in that product or service to then eventually take action. And there are other models that say similar things. Some of you might be familiar with things like the COM-B model or the theory of planned behavior. There are other models that also say that basically facts alone, cognitive information is probably not often going to be sufficient to drive behavior. So you need to combine that with emotion. And as I said earlier, sometimes actually we don't even need the cognition bit at all. Sometimes we go straight to the effective engagement for very quick decisions, and that might lead to behavior. So just thinking about how this might relate to some context that might be relevant to you. And we focused a bit on health and fitness, which I realise might not be the number one thing that all of you focus on in your communication work, but it seemed like a topic which was relevant to mainly public sector organisations. And I should say actually that I have worked on a whole range of different projects myself. I used to work in public relations for many years. So I've worked with public sector organisations as well as commercial organisations, and B2C and B2B too. So I can see some of the things that I'm talking about in the work that I've done previously in my public relations work before entering academia, which was quite a while ago, 13 years ago or so. So as an example, there are lots of messages being sent out by all sorts of organisations in all sorts of formats too, talking about the benefits of exercise and a healthy diet. And there might be people on TV, there might be spokespeople from government organisations, maybe sports organisations, telling us all the time that actually a healthy diet and exercise are really good for us. However, at the same time, there is also information, particularly at the moment in the last few months, around the effectiveness apparently of weight loss drugs. And therefore, when we think about what might be at the forefront of someone's mind, if they're trying to lose weight, maybe they've got a particular goal in mind, maybe they want to fit into a particular outfit for a particular event, maybe a wedding or something, what might become mentally available in their head, first and foremost, might be the quickest, the easiest way to get to that outcome. I mentioned Daniel Kahneman earlier on. He did quite a lot of research in availability bias and mental availability with Amos Tversky, looking at all sorts. One of the examples they use is if you're about to get on a plane, for example, and what you've seen in the newspaper the day before has been an article about a plane crash, you're probably more likely to overestimate your chance of your plane being in a plane crash, even though the objective facts don't change, because it's mentally available, it's in your head. So yeah, as much as you may have seen all the correct messaging around what you should do to maintain a healthy lifestyle, actually you're also likely to have at the forefront of your mind other sources of information too. And then very often we actually are quite selective in what we choose to make a decision too. So again, as much as we might think we're making a rational decision based on cognition and based on facts and objective assessment of information, yeah, you might find some information, for example, on the internet. You're probably likely to look at information in particular and focus and filter even that information based on an emotion that you already had. This is called confirmation bias. When you're just searching for information, people do this all the time to support an existing view. So buying a car, for example, you might find all sorts of reasons why a particular model of car, particular brand of car is the right car for you, but actually you may just have an emotional attachment to that brand. Maybe you just want to be seen driving that particular brand. So in an example here of someone finding information online that 5 minutes of exercise is fine, there are all sorts of programs that might support that, but actually what's driven that search for that information is that they just don't want to do that particular exercise. They just hate running. So people often actually are relying on their emotional brain, if you like, the emotional bit of their brain, in order to source information that supports that cognitively. So the whole section really that we've just been looking at is about stopping a reliance on just facts alone, understanding that actually emotion does play a big role in decision making very often, not always, but very often, and that's an important consideration.
So our stop is to stop thinking that everyone is always rational in their decision making and their choices, which leads to our start to pick up on that and go into some more theories, those emotional drivers that will encourage people to commit to new behaviours.
So I think Ruth mentioned earlier on that we've written a book, and in that book there are lots and lots of theories, and this isn't really a plug for the book, it's just to say that there are hundreds of theories out there that probably support some of the ideas that we're presenting today, and we've just picked a few that we think might apply to your context. Some of the theories that we present in the book are about commercial marketing, pricing and things like that, which might not be entirely relevant to every context, but we've tried to pick a few here that we think might be particularly pertinent. So a concept that you may have come across before, and you may not even have known, it's called social proof, but this idea that we basically look for examples of other people in order to understand what behaviour we should adopt in that particular moment. So this typically happens in moments of uncertainty. If you're in a new country, perhaps, and you're not quite sure what the correct etiquette is, things like queuing, for example, I've noticed are very different in different countries. You tend to look around and work out what other people are doing and then copy that. And social marketing as well as commercial marketing can employ those tactics. So for example, you may have seen these two on the motorway gantry, signs telling me what the typical behaviors are of other motorists. And why not apply that to other contexts too, and show behaviors that relate to healthy eating or exercise or whatever area of communications you're in. Actually, what's interesting about social proof is it doesn't necessarily need to be necessarily about the majority. It can actually also be showing trends. So it can be also effective in actually showing that something is trending and growing and increasing. You look at technology adoption, for example, people often get influenced by seeing trends that they want to be part of, even if it's not yet adopted by the majority. So just showing that people that are similar to your audience are already adopting a behavior might be sufficient to demonstrate that social proof. Now, we can also talk about the language that you use through your messaging. This could be to describe a product or service, but it could also be to describe a behavior. And Ian Begg's research, quite a few years ago now, University of Toronto was looking at things like, I think he described the difference between reactions to the words mortal fate and square door, and basically found that it's easier to digest and remember tangible, concrete language than it is abstract language. So if you're trying to use words to try and explain to people what they should do to change their behavior, make it as concrete as possible. Rather than live your dream, tell them how they can actually take part in an activity in a tangible way, maybe in their location that's relevant to them. Make it as concrete as possible. This has also been applied to sales more recently by Jonah Berger, who was looking at the language that salespeople use, for example, and how that can drive sales in a commercial context. It's also important to tell a story, and the research demonstrates that actually stories make information more memorable. We tend to remember events in terms of stories, but also there's a theory called narrative transportation, which is people tend to empathize and understand a story by picturing themselves in that story and getting absorbed into that story. So as much as you might want to show examples of social proof and others that have adopted a particular behavior, tell a story about those people and show maybe a challenge that ended in a positive solution, ideally adopting the behavior that you're referring to. Some behaviors that you might be trying to promote might be maybe not completely unpleasant, but just maybe not people's top priority. So one way around this, and Katie Miltman's research has demonstrated this, is to bundle something that people don't necessarily want to do with something that they actually really do want to do. So I think her research was looking at audiobooks and how when you ask people to listen to an audiobook whilst in the gym, they're more likely to want to go to the gym because they enjoy listening to the audiobook, whereas perhaps they might not have otherwise chosen to go to the gym. Well, why don't do the same thing? Rather than focusing on the exercise itself, focus on what people are going to do while they're exercising, listening to music, for example, and build that into your messaging too. Control is important too. So people like to feel a sense of control. So they probably might not react well to being told to adopt a particular behavior, but if you give them a range of choices, not too many, because there's something called choice overload. Too many choices puts people off making any decision. But actually, if you give people some choice and let them take control, there's actually research that people like to feel in control, and actually in a commercial context are prepared to forego a bigger reward in order to stay in control. It's called the control premium. Maybe offer a default, say this is the typical training plan, for example, if it's exercise related, but actually there are others available. Make that person feel in control, and also drive what we call intrinsic behavior. Make the person want to do that behavior because they've chosen to do it rather than because someone else told them. And then linking to that, if we tap into theories that relate to memory, Dan Ariely, again, you may have read some of his books, did a great piece of research looking at how commitment makes a difference to sticking to that behavior. And partly that's the social influence. If you tell someone else that you're going to do something, you're probably more likely to want to do it because you feel that social pressure. But also it means that you've embedded that particular choice into your memory, and you can remember that you said you were going to do that particular thing. Dan Ariely looked at deadlines and how people are more likely to stick to a deadline. You could apply that to commitment to take on a particular behavior related to health, for example. I'm going to run a 5k. You tell Pete you're going to run the 5k, and now you feel like I better do it because I've said I'm going to do it now, and it's in my memory, and Pete's going to put pressure on me too. And then lastly, one more theory related to memory is actually asking people to be involved in generating some content for themselves. So if you can encourage people to research it, brilliant. So if you can encourage like learning in a university, in my context, we know that students learn better when they go away and they research something themselves. That's called elaborative interrogation. But you could also, when it comes to health related behaviors, you could ask people to be involved in setting a training plan rather than just following a training plan, and that generation of content themselves is more likely to lead to their buy-in. You could then remind them how they've got on later down the line, and show them the endowed progress that they've done so far. You've done so much so far, don't let that go to waste, continue. And also there's research around identity as well. Calling someone a runner, saying you are now a runner, that changes identity and changes the way they feel, rather than just someone who does running. So several theories in there. I think that was 7 from memory, might have been 8, but yeah, a few theories that you can perhaps use in your work. Some of you may be doing some of these things already. I'm sure you are, in fact, but a few theories that relate to hopefully topics that you might communicate around.
So as you can gather, there are many psychology theories that can impact decision making, and we've covered just a few today. So our steal, next slide, Tom. Our steal for you is thinking about bringing those theories into practice. And that is very much what Tom and I, why we collaborated together on writing this book, Marketing and Psychology. Tom writing the theories from his many years of research, myself as a marketing practitioner, thinking and considering how do we use those in practice? How might we apply them? What key questions do we want to ask? So we're not suggesting that you take our entire book, because actually there's over 400 theories in the book. Don't try and apply them all. It's a reference guide, a resource that you can refer to when you're updating your strategies, preparing a new campaign, ideas that you can try and see what impact they can make. We're looking for small incremental differences just to nudge people further towards the behaviours that we're looking for them to action and change. So our steal is this summary of the book. Ruth has shared this in the delegate pack. We grouped the theories in a way to make them understandable. We called it A, B and C. Tom, if you just go back, I'll talk through the A, B, C. We grouped them into A, B and C so that it reflects the funnel. We've talked about theories that help you understand your audience, your stakeholders, in terms of brand, how your brand is communicated. So that's about your messaging. And then the elements that help people make those choices, whether it's about memory, biases, and value. So our steal is a structure of theories, how you can use those, implement them, and our resources. We have the book. We also have a website. You've got the next page, Tom, is the link that we've shared with you. There's click-throughs to all the podcast appearances we've done, including Nudge and Influence Anyone and Ruth's Brain Fuel as well, where we keep diving into these topics with lots of examples. So hopefully that's made it accessible to you. A few ideas for you already. We will share the slides, and now we have some time for questions.
Thank you, Luan. I will just say briefly as well that although we use the word brand, a good friend of mine, Dr. Zach Thompson at University of Tennessee, actually has written, did a whole PhD, but also written a paper, I don't think it's been published yet, about how brands do relate to social marketing context too, and how, as much as we might talk about products and services being branded in the commercial world, actually in a social marketing context, yes, the organisation, NHS, can be branded, but also the campaign can be branded, and also the behaviours that you're trying to encourage themselves carry brand meaning too. So although we use the word branding and we talk about commercial products and services, actually it does apply to other contexts too.
Ruth, do you want me to pick up on the question that's in the Q&A?
Yeah, I just
dive into that.
Can we just first of all, I want to say thank you, because honestly, there's so much in there. Thank you both so much. And I just wanted to reinforce what Tom said. When they're talking brands, here's your wonderful book. It's actually service design in our world, okay? This is 100% relevant for all commissioning and service redesign, because in marketing, in commercial sector, marketing is the product. It's not the comms. This is not promotion. This is service redesign. So really, everyone, it is still so relevant for you. So yes, and thank you. Yes, and I just saw that. Hello, Helen. I know Helen. That's a toughie. That one's over to you, Luan. Do you want me to read it out for you?
No, it's fine. I'll go for it.
Okay,
it is a toughy one to start the morning, but actually, Helen, you may not be aware, this is also one of my specialist topic areas and an area of research. I have also been writing a book around privacy in the age of social media. So I'm absolutely on top of the news that broke late last night and is being talked about this morning, how Meta and YouTube have been found guilty in a social media addiction case. The features of the platforms that have come into play in this are features such as infinite scroll, where we're really encouraged to just keep scrolling, autoplay of videos, and those kind of implications for mental health and kind of keeping people on the platforms in ways that are perceived as unethical. Tom, I'm going to throw it back to you in a second, because as Tom and I were writing the book, and the great thing about writing together is that we did challenge each other a lot. And we challenged each other in terms of how we presented the theories, because as much as we talk about bias, we were aware that we might have our own bias come into play with the theories we presented and how we talked about them. And obviously there are also many theories, for example, dark triad, which aren't necessarily positive ways of using them in marketing campaigns as well. So we did consider ethics. There is a note on ethics. It is pertinent to that litigation, and some features that can be seen to use the word manipulate people in maybe kind of the darker areas of theory versus maybe some more positive ways of using what we know about how people make decisions. Tom, do you want to pick up on dark triad in a bit more detail for us?
Yeah, well, just generally on ethics. I mean, I have to say I haven't done any research on social media addiction particularly. So, and the only thing I do know about it, and from conversations I've had with other academics, is that it's a very controversial area. And clearly, there's been a finding in America that's kind of found, I presume, that there is evidence for this, but I know that in academia it's quite controversial to understand what is social media addiction, how does it compare to chemical addictions, for example, and are they actually the same thing or not. So I know that there's a lot of debate. I'm not saying either way it does exist or doesn't exist or whatever, but I just know it's a controversial area. I mean, the general point I often get asked about ethics is it okay to use psychology in marketing? Is it ethical to use psychology in marketing? And my general fallback is that it depends what the product or service is that you're applying it to, and does it offer genuine benefit? Are you comfortable as a marketer that what you're doing is going to have genuine benefit? Now, I imagine that most of the audience today would say that what they're doing does have genuine benefit because it's for social good in the long run. It's has health implications, etc. But yeah, when people say, oh, should I use these techniques to sell alcohol, for example, should I use these techniques to sell something which is actually legal, but actually people might have ethical views on? It comes down to the products or services really. But as Luan said, in the book we explain all the different psychology, and we're not necessarily saying you should apply all of that psychology to every single marketing campaign. It comes down to the context that you're applying it to really. I can see there's another question around public affairs as well, Alona. I think I've never worked in public affairs directly. I've worked for a big PR agency, Grayling, and they obviously do a lot of public affairs work. And my understanding is a lot of that is around communication with people. And there is a chapter in our book around all the things that go into how we judge other people, things like likability, similarity, and I think Ruth, you wrote a blog this week about unity and Robert Cialdini's principle, the seventh principle of influence from his latest edition, the updated version of influence. So yeah, there's lots of work around how we judge individual people, also how we communicate with people, because I realized that your communications work as a public affairs specialist might be actually just talking to other people, talking to politicians, talking to journalists, that kind of thing, and how you present yourself. Again, it all comes down to social psychology, really. So there's one chapter in our book around how we judge individual people, and there's another chapter around how we judge networks and groups and how we behave in those group situations too. So I think both of those would be particularly relevant.
Thank you, Tom. And Alona, I think Katie's session will really help you, because the framing of the question is everything, isn't it, as to what you get back. So yeah. That's really amazing. Thank you both so much. And Luan, thank you for tackling that, the ethics one. We can go down, ethics takes forever, but I would say as well, if you're a member of CIM or CIPR or social marketing, there's loads of ethics frameworks to draw on around this. And just to add that one of the reasons we're so passionate about behavioral science is because it is assuming that psychology is happening all the time. So it might not be that you leverage everything. You don't need to know all of this book. It's much more about the understanding that it's happening. And actually, sometimes with inclusivity, it might be equipping people to understand. A lot of public health campaigns are about showing the manipulation behind marketing, especially in the tobacco industry. And then that's what people change their behavior on, because they become aware of the manipulation tactics. So being aware of them is absolutely key, I think, in our modern world, especially even with what's just happening with the social media giants. Thank you.
I've just added a link into the chat because the social media safety online, should it be banned for teenagers? The UK consultation is currently open until the 26th of May. So people can read more about what that means. And it's not just about online safety, it is about the elements of psychology that the platforms use, like, as I said, the infinite scroll, the autoplay. So if people do want to know more about that and contribute, there is a full consultation, a survey for parents and carers, and also one for children as well to participate in. So I've put the Gov link in there. It's worth a look.
Okay. Oh, amazing. Oh, thank you both, Luan and Tom. You've been absolutely incredible. Really appreciate your time. I was just thinking now we should have some sort of cheer that we can press a button. So, but thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all. So welcome to anyone that's joined, and thank you all for still being here. We're at 110, so that's amazing. Do still pop your LinkedIn in the chat, do interact, and we'll come to more questions. And Charlotte, I'll have a think about the social marketing book for you. Oh, I love it. Okay, let me bring you over. Right, so coming back to the whole point of today, it's about inclusivity. And we've just learned, we did decision making this morning. Tom touched very briefly on system 1, system 2, and making decisions. Now, the reason we put that first is because it doesn't matter what inclusivity agenda you're working on, how we all make decisions is relatively simple, and we can all be making decisions that we're not aware of. So we are all driven by assumptions. We are all driven by biases, subconscious and conscious. And until we're aware of them, or at least aware that we have them, we can't truly get to the heart of inclusion. So just to get us started, it'd be really great if you could pop in the chat, what does inclusivity mean for you? Because looking at the agenda, we had commissioners, we had comms, we had marketing, we had voluntary, public sector, some health orgs, some public, some private, agencies. So if you could share in the chat, what is your inclusion agenda and how does it show up for you? And then also, how does it show up for you at home? Just let these guys in. Let's just see what you're popping in the chat. Okay, so we've got oh, thanks guys, you're so good. Thanks, Leanne. Oh, you're amazing. Thanks, Leanne. Oh, thanks everyone. So we've got equity, accessibility, messaging reaches all people that need it. Yeah, oh yeah, we'll come on to the image and the fence, Nicola. Making sure all voices are heard. Yeah. Have we got anyone, particularly in sexual health, anyone, or smoking, or disabilities, physical, or women, gender equality? Because there's just so many different angles to look at inclusivity. And that's why we say, when we're doing our project works, when we're working on our behavioural deep dives, we say, look, this isn't just about focusing in on making sure we've got equity. This is actually, people make series of decisions, consciously and unconsciously, that will include or exclude. So let me just move it down because someone's mentioned that picture. And just to highlight, I've been in public health over 20 years. I've been working in health inequalities all this time, and it's just getting wider and wider. So it's accepted now that we have a 20-year difference in lifespan difference between rich and poor. And I know in all of your areas that will show up differently. Okay, but this is really serious. We have to move beyond and have this conversation, but not in a polarizing way, in a way where inclusion isn't simply a list of excluded people on a commissioning spec or on a design spec. We've got to step forward with it and really own it. So we always start there when we're starting our new projects. And I wrote about it following the lovely monkey, that it's not just that it's abstract. It can't be just an inclusion strategy. It's contextual, it's emotional, it's how it shows up. It isn't something we can just write about. It appears in moments, people feel it. And that's one of the really key reasons we love taking the behaviour change approach, because it actually brings inclusion alive. It moves it from simply equity to inclusion. So this is very, very popular and very well understood. And then someone on LinkedIn said, oh yeah, they moved the box. I think that was Claire. Thank you, Claire. But what if this box isn't enough anymore? This is what we really care about, because we strive for equality for everyone, yes, for everyone to have the same. And then we strive for equity, so it's fair for everyone. But where does inclusion sit? What does that mean to inclusion? And then, is that enough? So what we try and say is, actually, no, it's not just enough to strive for equity. We've got to be bringing inclusion alive by asking people, by talking to people, does this actually work? Did this happen for you? So in our behavioural deep dives, all we're doing all the time is actually making voices heard and asking the question, did it work? Did we meet the objective? To the people who hopefully were the point of in the first place. And I say hopefully because so often we have designed for services, we have specific target audience, but then evaluation can suddenly go very broad and we've just got people in the room. We're not talking to the target audience, we're talking to generic nouns like residents, patients. And this is where behaviour change is so powerful, because when that's happening, it's because it's been forgotten, the shift has been forgotten, that actually the target audience isn't just a target audience. It's like we're supposed to be designing inclusively for these people. Did we make it? Did we do it? And that's what's absolutely fundamentally powerful about behavioral science. So I was thinking if we'd had more time, I would have said, let's have a bigger conversation about when does it appear for you? Because if you're writing a commissioning spec going out to tender, or if you're designing the service, or you'd so often just given a list of excluded people, you know, they appear on GESNAs, on needs assessments, and that's just not enough anymore, which is why the behavior change approaches are so, so powerful, because they will help you shift to your desired behavior, because within that desired behavior, you've got to be saying who's here, who's inclusive, what are we trying to achieve here, and for who and how. So even by just shifting towards a behavioral bias, we get there so much faster, and we get the tangible mechanisms to really drive the inclusivity agenda. So that's what I wanted to say. And very quickly, before we go to Katherine, we've got the stop, start, steal for you. And it's very similar, similar to Tom's, where it's, you know, just stop thinking that it's an individual decision, that inclusion is up to somebody to join in. Or, oh, I did design something, they never came. Or we told people they didn't respond, because we know more information does not change behavior. Start designing for actual lives. So that means using, understanding and knowing people's lives in order to design for them, because otherwise we're designing for assumption. And we're giving away the empathy mapping and the behavior change marketing starter kit to everyone that turned up at the end. So you can have this for free, you know, at your leisure. So I'm going to pause there really quickly, but I'm hoping that's just anchored the inclusion. Please, as you go through, think about your inclusion agenda and be inspired by our next speakers. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to hand really quickly over to Katherine. Is Katherine here? Do you want to come on camera, Katherine?
I am. Morning.
Oh, thank goodness she's here. I was thinking if she hadn't have made it, what on earth would I do next?
I did struggle like everyone. I went on a journey through Microsoft Teams, but I've come through and I've appeared.
I know, we've got 85 here. Thanks so much. So Katherine, you're amazing. Katherine has really driven this event as well, everyone. Can I just say, behind the scenes, she's been doing so much design work, working it out, and she does this all the time. She's Director of Intelligent Health. She's 30 years experience in physical activity. She's spent the last 12 years developing the community game Beat the Street. It tackles health, ill health and inequalities. It gets people moving outdoors together. It connects people. It builds health in people's places. It's had over 2 million through the doors, and it's inclusion at scale. So Katherine, over to you.
Right, thanks ever so much, Ruth, and thank you for sorting that out. And I hope you are ready to go and relax after this somewhere, because I'm sure that was a pretty tense moment in the last half an hour as you tried to bring everyone back. And thanks everyone for staying with it. It was really interesting to hear the first session, and obviously what Ruth's talking about. And the bit I'm going to do today is just a case study in practice of the approach we've taken using behavioural science, but also in a real world experience where we know life is messy. And so how do you use it? How do you understand how to use the different approaches and make it make sense? And also, how do you do it at scale? So if I explain, we're going to talk about Beat the Street, have the thread of inclusion going through it, because that's how we designed it from the start, but also try and understand some of how we've applied it and what the approach we've taken to try and do something at scale and with joy to completely try and flip the narrative for people's health and well-being. So Beat the Street started as a walk to school programme many years ago, in sort of 2010, 2011, for the Olympics. It was part of, I think, the Olympic legacy programme. And as soon as it started, we realised that people experienced it much broader than encouraging children to walk to school actively, and how it literally tapped into something much broader. and developed. And so we've been on quite a journey over the last sort of 10 years or so, trying to understand what its impact is and how to really support it. So we've really noticed that and paid attention. And one of the things that was really interesting was the impact of children's behaviour on adults' behaviour. It was a children-led programme to start with, but one of the things we noticed were that people were actually thoroughly enjoying it as adults, and they were improving their behaviour. So we expanded it in about 2013-14 to support a whole community, and looking at the lens through inactivity as well as active travel. And we started working with Sport England, who've been working on tackling inactivity for the same amount of time. And we didn't stop there. We then realised as well that it actually supported so many of the multiple challenges that councils and residents are experiencing, whether that's kind of ill health, inequalities and climate change, that they're all interlinked. And they're wicked problems, as people often say. And we kind of, alongside that, you've got how do we try and improve behaviour, which we're all working on. And tackling individual behaviour is really complicated in this world of challenges where you have the commercial determinants of health, you've got social determinants of health. And actually, one of the things you find that we're at risk of is when you individualise a behaviour or a person and try and change that, you can give them too many messages. As the previous speakers talked about, you have information overload. I know on my feeds, you receive so many top tips, how many hacks, how to live better, sleep better. It's all a bit overwhelming and actually quite off-putting for people. So we need to understand those health behaviours and also the type 1 and type 2, but really think about how do we flip this? How do we use that to flip it and take a completely different approach and do something much bigger that helps people make the change themselves and feel part of doing that? So we have been looking at it about how you do it at a population level scale. One of the areas that we really focus on is inactivity. And the problem is a third of adults and less than 1/2 of children don't meet the current physical activity guidelines. This has been an intractable issue and much worse for those facing inequalities. So due to the size of the issue, they're often marginalised because it's such big numbers we're dealing with. And so we understand the problem, but that doesn't necessarily help us deal with it. And there are so many different organisations, parts of teams working on this problem. So whether that's public health, sport and recreation, active travel, health, education, environmental work, and they've all got their own different approaches, but we're talking to the same people. So we kind of need to think about how do we do that step change in impact and reach, and to bring all those partners together so we can really do something. It's some kind of shared narrative. So we need to think creatively. We need to imagine a world where people can move in a healthier as a result. So try and think about the state we want to achieve rather than where we're sat. And that's the approach that we've taken. So I'm going to go through it. But what I wanted to do first, because our work is really about helping people do feel the change. So I'm going to try and bring my slides in. Now, let me see. Can anyone see these appear? Now, what I'm concerned about is I've come in through it. Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. I've come in through a different way, Ruth, so I'm not 100% sure my sound is going to work. So let me know if it doesn't.
Okay.
I might have to sing it for you all. So as you said, Beat the Street is the starting line for everyone. So if we're taking that equity approach, how do we do it where everyone is invited to play? I'm going to try and share this video with you now, but let's see. So this was something that was produced by Wakefield Council, not by us, but they ran Beat the Street programme. I think this one was last year, just in a small ward in Featherstone. And I've got two things for you to notice. One is the different audiences that they've platformed taking part in the programme. And if you can hear it, what is the music? What's the seminal movie that the music is based on? There you go. So I hope you can manage to see and hear that. So has anyone popped in the chat what the movie was?
They
Yeah,
have,
train
Catherine.
spotting.
Train spotting, absolutely. Fortunately, the outcomes for those people taking part is increase in physical activity rather than the descent you see in the real train spotting. But it's just lovely how powerful that was. And please pop in the chat if anyone's worked on Beat the Street before or heard of it. But the thing that we were that you can see in that they've done is about just how wide ranging the audience is. It was across the place, all different ages, abilities. I love the teenage girl who just says it's all right. But it's a really powerful way of saying it. And you see what it is about the whole community taking part. So what you see in that is not what changes, what's different from people. I hope you can start to see what the approach that we've taken is about what unites us. So what have those people all got together, got in common? So the first thing is they're all humans, they're all social beings. We operate within a society and we're all deeply social. The other thing is that we have the same shared public space. We live in a world together. And that could be a neighbourhood, a street, a set of flats, but we occupy and use shared space. And how can we do that stronger and more purposefully? So our kind of philosophy is not about delivering exercise, not about tackling inactivity or increasing active travel, but about the social architecture, using behavioural science to support people to connect to each other and to their place. And we've kind of got our mission is to kind of build the foundations of a healthy society through helping people foster those sense of connections, trust and belonging. So we're focusing on the pillars of community health. So belonging, connecting people to their neighbours, safety, improving the perception and understanding of use safe spaces, and value, ensuring people feel seen in their environment. And inclusivity from the start really helps that happen. And one of the things we'd say is that Beat the Street uses relational centered design over person centered. So it looks at ways to bring people together and for them to experience what it feels like. Physical activity is the lever, and we're focusing on connection through movement. And that really helps us shift it from individual behaviours and what are their barriers to what is the assets and what can we do to help them. Supporting that notion that we're social creatures and we inhabit the same space. And I think one of the things that we probably can feel is whether in the physical and digital space, too often we kind of build character types when in real life it's much more complicated than that. I also passionately believe that we learn really well through play. Our lives have become really formalised and digitised, and that we have to re-engineer time to come together. And we know children have disappeared from our streets and into an online world, but I think adults have too. And as I said, one of the things we noticed when the programme first started is by the children playing, it gave permission for the adults to come out too. And we've spent a lot of time really nurturing that. And, you know, we can all feel how much we live on digital platforms, how we can shop online, chat to friends on platforms, but we're missing those physical connections. And that's where you think of things like the creative health work that the Arts Council have been doing, the Sport England work about using sport for social good. It's really powerful because that can connect us. So for us, it was how could we do that at scale? How could we do it with joy? And also, really importantly, for all the commissioners that we're working with, how do we evidence it? How do we show that this actually has impact? So we're working with councils, with the NHS, with transport partners, public health, and we know they've all got huge challenges to your budgets. You need to manage risk. And there's a breakdown, honestly, sometimes between trust between our state institutions and our residents. And so there's a risk that putting on something big might be a challenge. So how do we do that? So we need to create a possible world where we can come together, where we can see what's strong in our relationships and what our public spaces do have, instead of this negative narrative of we're all going to the dogs, the country's going to the dogs. What do we have? There's amazing, incredible parks and green spaces. How do we connect people to those and see their world, change the narrative slightly? So just to give you a little sample of that, I want you to think for the next 20 seconds, imagine a world that you would like to be in 10 years' time. So we're talking about the NHS having a 10-year plan. What is it that we want to see in 10 years? Imagine yourself. What kind of place do you want to be sat in? Who do you want to be sat with? What sounds would you like to be hearing? Just imagine that for the next 10 seconds. Now, I can't see the chat, but feel free to pop something in about what you're imagining. I did this a while ago, and something came through very strongly. There was bird song, there was green space, there were people with their friends, maybe having a picnic, that kind of thing. It's really, really powerful. And what you don't tend to get are people saying, I want to be in a traffic jam in 10 years' time. I want to be inhaling fumes. I want to be on my own, on my screen. The world we kind of imagine is a world which has the connection, and you are outdoors and active typically. It's a possible world. So Beat the Street, we try to help make people see and experience that where they live, work and play. So it's a community game. It uses gamification and it propels change. There's a really strong theory of change that sits behind it, and I can share that in the information afterwards. And the inputs in that theory of change are people, place and purpose. So for the people, it's mass engagement. We typically now engage 12% of the population, and the residents are the participants of the game. Half are children, half are adults. It's very inclusive. It reaches across demographics and over indexes often. The second part is its place. So it's a major event for a place. It's in people's streets, it's in their parks, it's on their high streets, it's on their canalways. It's not remote, it's not digital, it's in place, it's physical, and most importantly, it's free. And they are all invited to play, and they are actively invited. And we spend quite a lot of time on the marketing and messaging, as you'd all understand, to make people feel welcome, that that's for them. And finally, it's about purpose. It's a collective challenge to explore, connect and play their way. It's a narrative that positions a place as a thriving, connected, nature positive place that people can step into. I don't know if you saw recently, there was a wonderful post from Hannah the plumber after Gorton and Denton by-election, and she did a piece about the flags in Gorton and Denton, and her view was, as a tradesperson, how well put up the flags were, how well aligned they were. So someone had taken pride, and she said, I need that person to come and help me build the fences, to help mend the community. I need you to work with me. It was really inviting people in. So at its core, Beat the Street's a real life game set where people
No, you've made her attendee.
Hello, hi everyone. Sorry, Katherine was talking and then she got changed. So I think, let me just check. I'll bring her back.
Hang on. Sorry.
Are you in, Katherine?
I am, yes. I don't know what happened.
Honestly, it is like I am awake, aren't I?
Where did I get to? I was quite happily chatting.
And you were doing brilliant, and it's like a nightmare because it's everything that could go wrong is going wrong. So Katherine, where you were just saying how brilliant Beat the Street is.
Okay. Well, I was still saying that. So the at its core, did you hear me say about at its core? It's like a game. Yes, Pokemon Go. So, and it's all built on behavioural approaches. but not religiously kept. It's understanding what they are, how to work, and then testing them. And one of the benefits we have is that when we play the game in a place, we've got 25,000 people playing at the moment, a couple of places in Cornwall, we're in Sunderland, we're in Colchester. Everyone wants to tell us what they think of the game and how to improve it. So we get unbelievable real time feedback on what's happening. But we use information at the back. So we use the EAST framework, which is one of my favorites, checking whether something, a rule, a message, an explanation is easy, attractive, timely, simple. That's really crucial. We use the trans-theoretical theory of change, which is a series of stages of where people are in terms of their readiness, ability to act. And COM-B, capability, opportunity and motivation. We do lots of stuff about social norming. What we're trying to do is we want the morning of the game to feel like Christmas morning, where the kids are running out with their cards, excited, seeing other people, chatting to each other, feeling like something's happened in their place. So that social norm is vital to get that energy to make people feel they can make the change. And also, these are all frameworks we use, but I say they're flexible. And I just wanted to share my new favourite framework, which Ruth and I heard at a conference in Alicante last November. And I actually think, I basically sat in the conference going, oh, we do this, because a lot of the work we're doing is about positive reinforcement messaging. We want people to have the agency to make the change themselves. So we're trying to create the conditions rather than make them do the work and we take the credit for it. It's theirs. They're the ones that are making the change. So this is called boosting. And boosting is different from nudging. So nudging is really useful. It's a great technique, and it's very good for immediate unconscious changes. So we know about in a supermarket, putting the healthier bit, removing the chocolate, that kind of thing. However, and I've always felt maybe controversially that it can be a little bit paternalistic and a little bit deficit based, that we're saying that people are, and we know there's different attitudes to people, but that is something that I think we use nudging, but we're just aware of that it can go that way. Whereas boosting, on the other side, aligns with kind of our overall asset-based approach. It's about building health literacy and building self-efficacy. And Beat the Street works as a long-term boost by providing the skills, the knowledge, the agency for people to do the change themselves. They've done it. They've discovered their park. They've taken their child to school on their scooter. They've taught them to ride a bike for the first time. They've helped it. We've just created the conditions for it. And they also see others doing it, being off screens together, making positive memories. Much of our language uses that positive reinforcement. So I loved the fact that we found that framework, and we're definitely bringing it in more. And I think it's a wonderful concept and a really asset-based positive thing that you want people to be able to step into it. A prevention is a negative of something. How do you create the possible world where something happens and they own that's something you can be really proud of? Stopping something is hard to celebrate. Starting something and being part of something is really positive. So Beat the Street works. I can see some people have said they've been part of it, which is wonderful. We've actually had 2 million participants through the programme now in over 200 different places. We've got a national programme in England with Sport England, but also we've worked for over 10 years in Scotland through active travel, really strong relationships with Paths for All and the councils there, and a sparkle of European programmes. And we're going to be going to Holland again in September. And as I said, we've had 25,000 people already in the programme today, all out in the sunshine, hopefully tapping. And the funding, I mentioned, we come from councils, from public health, transport, NHS, sport, voluntary sector, environment. We bring them all together before a game to work on understanding how the programme works. And then people play by walking around the area, tapping the boxes. I think I won't go into too much of the detail of the game itself, because I can see we're a bit over time, Reese. But the couple of things I just wanted to share. So on the evaluation, am I all right for a couple more minutes to talk about inclusion? Yeah. So the magic happens when people take the game themselves. They're setting up mums walking groups, after school events with the kids, community groups coming together and playing, a men's mental health charity, a litter pick. All of the different things are being activated in the place. So it's not an intervention on something, it's about boosting all of the amazing things that happen. And that means the impact is really powerful and it sits across everything. So we have when people sign up for the program, it's free, but they register to take part, and they give attitudinal data on how they feel about their place, but also on their health, their physical activity. And we provide their survey at the end of the game, 6, sometimes 12 months later. And we've got really strong evidence of behaviour change on health, on how they feel about their place, their increase in trust, increase in active travel. And also we provide this incredible community voice where 1 in 8 residents in a place are telling us how they feel, and we've been able to use that then with partners to make practical action in policy going forward. And obviously making sure that it has that equity in there. So finally, I just wanted to say that in 2024, we worked with the Activity Alliance and a disability charity to review the programme. So I said we built it from the start to make sure the boxes beeped and flashed. They were the right height to be equitable. The position of them was, and the inclusion, the logo is representative across the population. But we wanted to see what else we could do. So we brought them in and they were fantastic. They reviewed the programme. They thought it was strong, but they had some extra suggestions. So one of them was an accessibility icon on the map, more visible beat boxes, and the provision for special educational needs schools to have beat boxes within their school grounds. And we've been very strong about not putting the beat boxes into areas that others couldn't access. But this was a clear call to action that actually it wasn't equitable for children in SEND schools because they weren't able to leave and off and be able to do this walking. So we put those in. We created a separate leaderboard for SEND schools. And now each programme typically will have a SEND leaderboard with a winning team who then come to the event, the celebration event, who are celebrated, and they really are very proud to feel part of it. So looking at the impact that had, there was a meta study done of Beat the Streets impact over 2 years, looking at 408,000 people who played in 48 games, half adults, half children, 40% from the most deprived areas, 20% adults with a long-term condition, 4% with a disability. And returning to that study, there was a decrease in inactivity amongst all participants. For adults specifically, it was a 7.5% decrease in inactivity, whereas for those with a disability, it was a 12% decrease in inactivity, and those with a mental health condition, 14.5%. So the greatest impact was on those who may be facing the greatest inequalities, but everybody is allowed to take part. So I think that's the thing I wanted to finish with. And then for Stop, Start and Steal, just to say as well that that's one of the reasons we're able to share that for every £1 invested, it generates £34 in social value. So that is a call to action to be bold and brave and do something at scale. And the Stop, Start and Steal, we've got stop just looking at the individual, try relation-centered design. It's really powerful. The web of connections between people, communities and their environment, and that makes a big difference with how you think about things. Start boosting, have a look at it. Stefan Herzog is the person I've given the links to Ruth. Try boosting as an asset-based approach. And also take a pragmatic approach to behaviour change methods. Be flexible, curious, test with your audience, and steal. A big thing I'd like to say is create health. Don't focus just on prevention, stopping behaviour, but accentuate the positive action and imagine the positive outcome that you want. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Katherine. That's absolutely brilliant. Could you do your Stop, Start, Steal again? Could you say them again for everyone?
Yes. Hang on. Do you want me to try and share the slides?
I think so, because they're so powerful. And because basically Katherine actually does what we talk about. You're actually shifting towards creating health rather than looking at the problems in health, trying to stop the problems or a symptom or just one silo agenda. It's that holistic shift towards what is health And I think it's so powerful, and boosting is incredible. Yeah,
Can you
thank
see
you.
that?
Yeah, love it. Oh, so I've thrown my pen around. Love it, love it, love it. And we will get links to you all on Boost. Do we have any we can give in this webinar? We could pop them in the chat, Catherine.
Yeah, I've got them here, so I can.
Brilliant.
I'll pop them all into the
We'll pop them
chat.
in a moment. I cannot, yeah, I think we need to do more on Boost. And when we first started designing this, it was actually about Boost, wasn't it? We were saying, right, let's just push Boost, 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 because Nudge came in, and it's kind of Marmite, but Boost is such a way to do inclusion. So we're talking about inclusion today. Using the Boost framework is a way to do it. So thank you so much for bringing that up. And if you're thinking, okay, what is Boost, Ruth? Well, Boost is beat the street, because you've been doing this naturally. So it's that shift towards creation health. With questions coming in, let's just see. Is there anyone who wants, because you're on, we're in sort of meeting mode now. Is there anyone who wants to jump on and ask Catherine a question? And I'm just having a look there. There's a big question. Yeah, so Catherine, you've got quite a few questions in there about wanting to know more about it and pick it up with you.
So should I do those in the chat while you carry on?
Yeah,
so
and I see Debbie's picked them up. So thank you
Yeah.
for that, Debbie. So just for time, and thank you for catching up, Catherine, being so calm like a swan. Thank you so much for sharing that today. Beat the Street is incredible, everyone. Just please go and have a look, even if it's not your agenda, your portfolio. Look at it to be inspired. So much to take away. We'll move straight into Elisabete now. Thank you, Catherine. Elisabete, are you there? It's like
Yes,
Eurovision. Calling Elisabete.
I'm here.
Oh, can you pop yourself on speaker? Sorry,
You can hear
on
me?
video. I'm just going to move it.
You can hear me and see me.
I can't see you yet. I can hear you. Can everyone hear? Let's have a look.
And my
It's
camera
because
is on.
there's so many of us. Let me just see.
Let
It
me
could just be
share
me.
the screen and maybe we'll.
Yeah, I think you'll come up. And as you, there we are. There she is. Elisabete, thank you so much.
Yes.
Let me just introduce you. So, Elisabete is doing our Building Trust with Underserved Community session. She's a public health professional with over 15 years experience leading community-focused programs that address health inequalities. She's currently program lead for sexual health services at the BHA for Equality, and she oversees the HIV and STI prevention, women's health initiatives, and culturally sensitive outreach across Greater Manchester and Liverpool. And we've had the great pleasure of working together recently, and I just say she's amazing. Her team is amazing. Thank you for sharing your time today. And I'm going to hand over to you now.
First, I'll ask if everyone is seeing my screen. You can see the PowerPoint, yes? Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting Ruth. Very happy to be here. So my name is Elisabete. As Ruth already explained, I'm the sexual health lead, so a program lead for sexual health service at BHA for Equality. And today I want to talk about building trust with communities whose voices are often unheard, and about the BHA approach of community-led and person-centered. So just to give a bit of context, BHA for Equality works to reduce health inequalities and empower people from racial minoritized communities, migrant, LGBT, and other underserved communities. And we work across Greater Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds, Wakefield, and Coventry. We have projects in sexual health, but also in TB, cancer, diabetes, and other conditions that affect more vulnerable communities. So I lead a sexual health team. So I lead the sexual health service that provide HIV and STI testing, distribution of condoms, information, and advice. group session, training, and creation of resources in different languages. Our sexual health team spends every day in direct contact with people, experience multi-layers of vulnerability, such as immigration status, poverty, racism, stigma, digital exclusion, so many. During our interventions, we hear stories that reveal not just what is happening, but why it's happening, and that trust is built through relationships and sharing spaces with the community and listen to them as well. So I brought here the stop. Why is trust missing and what else matters? I brought here some data in terms of sexual and reproductive health inequalities. And the data show us that health inequalities exist and have his own, like healthy life expectancy for people in most deprived communities 18 years lower than for least deprived. And then this is also mirrored in the sexual and reproductive health outcomes. That shows, for example, like Black Caribbean are disproportionately affected with rates twice higher than white ethnic groups, that 52% of Black Africans were diagnosed late, and maternal death rates remain unacceptable or higher among Black women. And just this is some data, but these figures are not the result of just individual behavior, but also reflect systemic disadvantage. And when people carry trauma or shame or previous negative experience, trust becomes the first barrier to access services. So I brought here some real codes, so from our work when we are in the community or from some focus groups that we deliver. So I'll actually going to read some of the codes. The first one was from a asylum seeker like around 2 years ago. So if you are an asylum seeker like me, the only thing you think about is what is in the news. The Home Office is putting people in detention centers and sending them to Rwanda. So this is my problem now. I don't go look for an HIV test. If I feel sick, then I'll say. So they demonstrated the priorities, that sometimes we are prioritizing so much in terms of your health, but they have like kind of different priorities. Another sentence from someone that was talking about how she was feeling treated by a receptionist in a health center. Sometimes they differentiate on the basis of our skin color, race, gender. When they see us, they feel like this person is from a minority. We don't need to worry. They don't know about their rights. And then the last sentence is about a mom, working mom. The sexual health clinic is just too far from me. The bus costs too much. And even if I could go, who would pick the children from school? So when we ask why people don't engage, here are the recurring barriers we hear everywhere. So it's like medical mistrust, past experience, fear, and shame, language barriers, health illiteracy, community and social and personal stigma, discrimination, bias, racism, digital exclusion, lack of cultural relevant information or competency, lack of confidence, self-esteem, and other social determinants of health, meaning that sexual health is not a priority. So this sentence that I just disclosed, that I read for you, illustrate these barriers. People are not just disengaged or hard to reach, as reported are unheard. So a second starts I brought like building trust, reshaping service by sharing a bit of the BHA approach. So BHA, instead of asking communities to fit into service, we shape service around their lives and experiences. So our approach is community-led and holistic. So we listen to the community wants and design the service around their lived experiences. We also, and very important, we listen without assumptions as well. And we use a holistic approach to sexual health. We go beyond just the testing. It's not just about how many people we test, but we understand that sexual health links to mental, physical, emotional, social well-being. So our sessions are usually about consent, about healthy relations, communications, with other providers, understanding body and symptoms, and also inside of BHA, we try to work not just with the main service user, but also other organizations that support the communities or sexual health clinics, GPs, to kind of have like this holistic approach. So still in the start, building trust in reshaping service, I'll just we'll share some strategies, community engagement strategies of BHA. So I have here like illustration of some of the activities as well. So culturally tailored outreach. So basically it's creating a space for open dialogue where views may be restrictive or challenging in supporting learning in a respectful and community-led way. So basically we create our sessions, and sometimes we go to the community. We have like here illustration or picture of some sessions that we deliver sometimes in ESOL classes, but also like in barbershops. Like we're very flexible. We kind of try to go where the communities are. So we do partner with different organizations, and that is, for example, like community hubs, is all classes, like I said, festivals, so different stakeholders to reach these communities. Equitable access, so providing equitable access to HIV, STI screening, and condoms and lube, PrEP. Just to give an example, for example, we have like the click and collect for HIV tests. And then that's the reason came because some of the communities, mainly, for example, refugees and asylum seekers, they don't have a fixed address. So it's important, like that's the reason. Then we designed like the click and collect. So this kind of strategy that we use by listening to the community and then reshaping the service. We deliver also group sessions, trainings, workshops, and seminars. And this because, you know, always information is power. If the community are more informed, they'll have better decisions. We develop resources in different languages. Very important to say, like, we're trying here to bridge language and communication gaps. It's not just about translation, but it's also including cultural and social meaning. So when we develop our resources, we always do, we co-design with the community. You ask what they want to be included in the resources. Like, for example, we have here like some examples: your guide to contraception, your guide to STIs, menopause. We have several. So we try always to involve the community to design the resources. And again, like I was saying, that's so important, person-centered and holistic well-being, recognizing the alternative approach to well-being of these communities. So for the still, I brought here the use of social media influencers. So as you can see, we have like different approaches to engage the community. One of them is the use of social media influencers. So I'm just going to share like how we work with the social media influencers. So they basically like trusted community leaders and influencers like that, and then it can be like shop, beauty professionals, local advocates. So the people that are recognized the community, usually they like when we choose them, they usually have like a number of followers, but they are recognized in the community. And we specifically try to use social media influencers because they have like a different way of communicating with the community. They have like the trust that we are talking about already, and they use also a different language to engage with the clients like that. For example, if it was BHA for equality, maybe we'll use a different type of language. I have here, like, for example, two different posts of community ambassadors, and have, like, for example, here one saying like, I support HIV prevention, and HIV prevention, it's an elephant in the room in our communities, and we need to talk. So they talk like direct to the person, and for this is very effective. So in terms of the strategy, we develop, when we use social media influencers, we develop a sexual health campaign. And then after that, we define what the asks for the social media influencer. And then we find the sexual health influencer. So when I put here the sexual health influencer needs to be, of course, there's some criteria that important, like if they are aligned with the BHA values. For example, we do check the profile of the person. Imagine if to check if the person there's no homophobics or misogynics or racist comments in the profile of the person. So to double check if the person aligned with BHA values, the number of people that follow them, and then we invite them, of course, to be part of the campaign. And then we deliver also, we share the assets, but we deliver training as well. Training about HIV, sexual health in general, of course, and about the campaign itself. Depends, imagine, it could be like Sexual Health Week or HIV Prevention Week. And this training is because sometimes people do ask, although they say, for my information, to contact BHA, sometimes people contact them directly more information about, for example, how to order an STI kit. So we give this training to the influencers. And then we, of course, after the campaign, we do always the evaluation, how it works, how the impact also that these social media influencer has. And it's great to see like the conversation actually that they have in the chat about HIV prevention, like, oh yes, I need to go to test. Where can I test? So it's actually a very good way of engaging with the communities, and they have their own network as well. That is important, like, actually to mention, because sometimes when we have like where organizations sometimes have the network of organizations, sometimes the other organizations, but the influencer actually have contact with the community. So I try to be as short as I could be, but for more information, please, you have here my email, and I'm open for any questions.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you did catch up. I appreciate it. That's so interesting how you managed your influencers and you even give them training. So I wonder, yeah, I didn't realize they had actual training as well. And that's really, I suppose that shifts them into the role of ambassador a bit more than trainer a little bit.
Exactly. Actually, we have like, I just gave the example of the social media influencers, just because well, in terms of time, one thing to steal.
Yes, yeah.
But we also have like ambassadors, kind of like, because some of the communities are digitally excluded, so we have like the same strategy in terms of the ambassadors, people in the community delivering this information as well. And it's always important to give training because we want them to give to the communities accurate information. So yeah, it's important. It's part of the kind of a contract that we do, the agreement, that they attend to training.
Thank you. And Charlotte's picked up on that as well. She's got a question. Charlotte Crowley, do you want me to read it out, Charlotte, or do you want to come on and ask Elisabete? Since we're in a different format, you're very welcome. I'd have to find you,
I can
guess.
see here like the training and about we have celebs, but getting them to reply. So we don't recruit celebrities like in the sense of what we think about celebrities. Sometimes they don't have that many followers like you may think. So sometimes they don't have that many followers, but they have a very good reach in our communities. So it is not like the celebrities, but they are very well known in the community. So that is the difference, because the ones that they're these like conversations about sexual health, and sexual health is a subject is very intimate, there's a lot of stigma, shame around it. So the conversations with the person that is, for example, the barber shop that has a lot of influencer or they have a lot of followers. Imagine this person has more impact than for the person actually to go to test for HIV than a celebrity like, the movie star from the Hollywood. So this is the people that, and these ones are more open to training than the celebrities will have. So, and the training also is also short. It's not like complicated. It's not like intense training, but some key messages.
And Charlotte, do you want to write in the chat who your celebs are? What it is that you're working on? That'd be really interesting because I think it is important. Alison is, yeah, someone just said picked up on it is important. Sorry, Ivy said the difference between influencers and influencers. Yeah, it's so important, isn't it? And that's the whole point of inclusion, isn't it? It's not always your councillor, the local MP, or your director of public health even. It's who matters to your community. Yeah, that's brilliant. And Gillian says, I've been thinking about targeting barbershops for a new campaign. Any tips for Gillian? Elisabete?
Yeah, so it works with us. Barbershop is actually working, but it's kind of first we build the relationship. I feel like it's not just we just go and ask, do you want to be a social media influencer? Or it's kind of all the barbershops and the places we work in terms of developing campaigns. We had like a previous relationship. So, for example, we go to the barbershops and we talk with them. We explain the situation. We talk with the clients. We deliver testing there in the barbershop. And then when the relation of trust and understanding of the need is there, then it's when we ask, for example, to be a community ambassador. It's not just like another thing. It's paid. Just one thing I think is important I didn't mention. So we do pay the community ambassadors and the social media influencers, but because we respect and we value their time, sometimes people even are okay to do it for free. But I think it's important for people to feel valued, and they are giving their time. So not just asking without giving anything in return.
Thank you. That's such an important point. And yeah, lots of lovely chats going in about people working with community leaders and things. So do hop into the chat, Elisabete, if you like. Thank you so much. We are back on time. Elisabete, will you be around in the chat if people have got questions for you, and pop your LinkedIn and connect with you? But it's so amazing because you're in building deep, deep trust and long-term relationships. So, because of course, these things are never just one off, are they? It's not like, oh, I just signpost somebody and then they suddenly go. Do they have to pay for their own training, or do you offer, is that part of the gig?
I would just would like to respond at least one of the question in terms of how much we pay is very different person campaign per campaign. We know third sector do struggle with getting to how to get funding to pay these kind of things, but sometimes we even pay from 20 to 200. It depends. Sometimes people just want to actually feel like we are valuing their time. It's not about the money itself. So, and sometimes we do pay like, is more like an amount, it's so reasonable that is not even like a payment, it's just a recognition almost. But it's important to do it. So around, some people even offer their service. So like when the trust is built, not straight away, but when the trust is built, some people say like, would like to do something for BHA, it's possible.
Okay.
So it depends the money.
Just a really quick question. How do you build the trust?
Time and explaining people the reasons why. People need to understand why, the reasons behind, and how it's going to benefit them. People don't like to feel like they're almost like used when they need, and then we forget. It's good to come back and explain them again, like the outcomes of the approach. Otherwise people feel like they use me, like, and then they don't talk with you again. It's a relation that's built, but it needs to be maintained. And we need to listen, like I said, again, we need to listen and respect what people have to say to us, not just arrive with approach like, oh, I already know your needs, and not listening to what people have to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Really appreciate you coming on, taking the time. Please, everyone, do connect with Elisabete's work. It's incredible. Thank you so much. We will pass on now to Katie, if that's okay. Katie, it's like Eurovision time again, calling Katie. We've got 86 on, so if you could come and share, that will elevate you to the top. Otherwise, I shall be scrolling through. Please, everyone, do have a look in the chat, because there's some fantastic chats in there. There's also loads of examples of other people doing it. And just as Katie comes on, look at wave her book. Can hear you, can't see you, but I can hear you. Okay, and I can see your presentation.
Okay, you can. Okay.
Let me check. Can everyone see Katie? Are you on video? Oh, there you are. It's because there's so many. If you can't, like me, you might have to scroll through. Katie, I didn't know if you were there earlier. We had to come off the webinar. So we're on meetings, so much more relaxed. And I'm so excited for your session. Let me just tell everyone who you are, and I will hand over to you. So Katie is a customer insight strategist. She helps organizations get closer to the people they serve. With a background in journalism and over a decade working with the leadership, product and communication teams, Katie specializes in improving how organizations gather and use insight to reduce wasted spend and increase impact. So woohoo, because Katie completely gets public health, and she wrote the fantastic book, Do Penguins Eat Peaches? It's in your book drawer. Okay, this is my secret, because of course I'm excited because it's questions. We do behavioral insight. Just to say, we also always pay. There was a comment like, oh, we're supposed to be grateful to underserved groups for giving their opinions and things. Like, exactly. But this is my secret sauce for all of our work. So I'm just giving it all away now. You won't need us anymore. But seriously, I read this nearly every time I write a topic guide. So super excited. Thank you, Katie.
Oh, thank you so much, Ruth, and for everyone joining today. So everyone can see, just making sure everyone can see my presentation, because I actually can't see it, but hopefully, yes, you can. Okay, brilliant. So you've already done the introductions, and I know we're quite tight on the schedule today, so I'm just gonna
We're
dive.
okay now.
Oh
We're
yeah,
okay
we're
now.
back on
Yep,
track.
back on
Okay.
track.
Yeah, so as you introduced me, I'm a customer insight strategist, and I help organizations, companies get closer to the people that they want to serve, and effectively, design the products and the services that, deliver on the outcomes that we intend them to have. And one of my favorite topics to talk about is the power of asking better questions. I think many organizations for sure have good intentions when it comes to designing the services for their communities, for their audience, but in practice often fall short. And that's mainly in the ways that they engage their communities, and whether they're doing surveys or focus groups, I so often see the wrong type of questions being asked. And this can be when you've decided to do some co-creation in terms of programs or services, or getting feedback on an existing service and areas to improve. So today I'll be sharing, my stop, steal, and start, and it would revolve around, what to stop asking, what to start asking, and then some tips that you can take away and hopefully implement this week. So let's start with my stop, and it might surprise you a little bit from a researcher point of view. Stop asking people what they want. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but the truth is people don't always know what they want. And obviously, I'm sure everyone's heard of the famous Henry Ford quote when he asks them, what do you want? And they say faster horses. They wouldn't even conceive the idea of a car. So people don't always know what they want or what is possible in the future, but they do have a grasp on, their own lived experience, how they felt, and the steps or the journey they made to get to, whether it's a clinic appointment or a community engagement program, or they know that, they know their lived experience, their present and their past. But the future, we kind of want to avoid asking people too much to project themselves into the future, because most patient surveys or engagement forums, consultations, they tend to lead with, what do you want from this service, or what can we do to improve this service? And the answers, you will get answers potentially like, oh, we want better flexible appointments or better parking in front of the clinic, but they're rarely that insightful if you really want to improve on a service. So I thought we could take an example of a diabetes clinic in a GP surgery. And let's say that they're kind of struggling with attendance, like people are not showing up as expected or as planned, and they're trying to, figure out why, so that they can get more people to attend. So they run a patient survey, and they ask an obvious question that would come to mind: what would make you more likely to come? And the answers that they come back with are, as I said before, oh, we'd like better parking or more flexible appointment times. And so this clinic invests in both of those things, but attendance doesn't really move the dial, and attendance kind of barely moves. So that was my my stop. So stop asking people about, how would they like to see the service improve, or what would make them more likely to come. What we're going to be asking instead. So we want to be asking about the past and present experience of your community, of your audience. So let's come back to our diabetes clinic example. A community health researcher goes and tries something a little bit different. And instead of just a survey with those type of questions that I've just mentioned, she sits with the patients or people in the waiting room and asks, one simple question: walk me through the last time you came into an appointment, from when you woke up that morning to arriving here today. And what she hears is a completely different story and a completely different set of responses from the survey that they did initially. People will be saying things like, some patients talked about childcare. the appointment is at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday and they have a toddler, they've got no wraparound care, a partner can't take time off work, and that slot just doesn't work for their life, and no one ever asks them about their life. Some talked about work, they're on a 0 hours contract, for example, and missing a morning to come to a 10 a.m. appointment actually means losing, £40, and that's not a small thing. And potentially the letter that came for the appointment didn't mention that potentially reasonable adjustments existed. Some talked about potentially the fear, not the clinic itself, but what they might find out. If I don't go, I don't have to know how bad it is. Using like ignorance a bit as a coping mechanism, and no extra parking spaces is going to fix that for this particular gentleman. And so a survey that focuses too much on asking people what they want in the future kind of flattens everything down to kind of logistics, parking and opening hours, because it only captures really what people could say out loud easily, or on a tick box on a form, when asked just kind of direct, closed questions. And so the conversation, by changing the focus to asking patients and audiences for their stories, like talk me through how you got here today, and that just opens a whole lot of new insight for the institutions and organizations that are trying to figure out how to do better for their community. And each one of these new insights pointed to a very different intervention. Like, we could already speculate about what kind of things they could do to support some of these insights around, the childcare, or reasonable adjustments around missing work and things like that. But a blanket basic survey just wouldn't get that with the wrong questions. And the truth often only comes out when you ask people, what happened, not what people imagine they may do differently in the future. So I think that's what I want to for you guys to take away, is like really start probing about present and past behaviors, because the future, it doesn't exist. And there's many a service and product that has died a slow and painful death by companies and organizations asking, oh, if we did this, would you come? And people go, oh yeah, maybe, and then no one comes. So really, let's focus on present and the past. And so with that in mind, I thought I'd let you steal my 4 techniques around better questions that you can use this week or in your future research. You can find all of these in the book that Ruth mentioned, which is called Do Penguins Eat Peaches? And Other Unexpected Ways to Discover What Your Customers Want. And it's a really accessible and practical market research guide for anyone wanting to understand their audience better. And I think, as you mentioned, Ruth, and that's really the intention with the book, was to make it easy to digest, practical, that people can kind of go away and implement themselves. And so I took 4, I've got actually 5 or 6 golden rules in my book, but I took 4 here for you today. When you're designing surveys, or if you're doing interviews and focus groups, we really want to be asking open questions. So instead of asking something like, did you find it easy to get to your appointment today? That kind of warrants a yes or no answer. We want to be asking things like, can you walk me through the last time you came to a clinic appointment? You'll get far more insight and rich insight from asking the question slightly differently, so sticking to open-ended questions. Number 2 is avoid the leading questions, and this comes up quite a lot, I see, as well in surveys. So instead of, do you find it hard to get to your appointments? Again, take out the language, the implied language around, oh, this is difficult to get to the appointment, and say, tell me about the last time you had a health appointment. How did that go? So you're not leading the person you're talking to down any particular route. You keep the question and the language quite neutral. Number 3 is around ditching the hypotheticals, and that kind of comes back to our point around not projecting the patient or the audience too much into the future. So instead of, would you come if we offered an evening slot? That's all hypothetical. They could say yes, that might not be the real reason why they're not coming in, for example. So yet again, tell me about the last time you had to rearrange your day to make a health appointment work. And the answers you'll get often, they're the ones that will help you really understand some of the barriers, for example, for people attending particular clinics. And then for any of you who have toddlers or who have had toddlers, I like to call this one the toddler technique. So keep asking why, and then often why again. Like, don't just stop at the first one. Obviously do this not like a toddler would do, but for example, if we take our diabetes example again, a patient might say, you know, I just found it really hard to get here. Instead of leaving it at that, you really want to say, okay, well, what made that hard? Tell me more about that. Why is that, do you think? And just keep probing and probing, because often the gold is after 3 or 4 asking, you know, why, or tell me more about that. Yeah, so you kind of keep going until you hit a little bit of nugget of information, which you wouldn't have if you just stopped at the first answer, for example. So yeah, these are kind of 4 of the techniques that you can use this week. And as I said, they're all in the book. And I also have like quite a handy question guide at the end with some examples. So when you are building your surveys or your focus groups, there's like a question bank that you can take from. And I think, yeah, that's my main 3 points today, Ruth. And I think the main thing is just, yeah, make sure that you're asking people about their actual experience. I think that's the biggest takeaway, their actual experience. That's what they know best. And from that, you will get enough insight to design, you know, successful, you know, engagement programs, communication in the future. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. The chat has been so busy. Everyone's like, woohoo! Thank you so much. What you've just said is just the key for me. Yeah, lots of clappings coming. Absolutely amazing. Very clear takeaways, because this how do you ask questions? It's so often skipped. And we have this huge desire to help. Everyone in these jobs really wants to be inclusive, wants to make a difference, wants to bridge these gaps. And yet you can get very nervous and, like you say, fall right into the wrong questions. And so your 4 techniques are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for Katie in the chat? Everyone is agreeing. Everyone's saying it's incredible. And everyone's discussing it, which is absolutely wonderful.
I see, and I think it's really important to say that the intention, the good intention, is always there. And you know, whenever I'm in any kind of health related environment, I can see if there's a little survey or there's the buttons with the, you know, did we do well today? And I'm just thinking, oh, you're just missing out on all this other type of insight. And often it's just a tweak, it's just a reframe, it's just another review of the questions, because I think it is automatic in a way, and that's why I said it was counterintuitive. My first kind of stop asking people what they want, because it's like, what, isn't that the whole point? We're trying to ask them what they want, we're trying to do what's best for them, and it just you will get to what they want, but not by understanding their reality and making them feel safe enough to explain, you know, their journey to today. I think that's it blows people's mind when they start doing that. It's like, oh my goodness, we did not know this about our communities and our patients.
Okay, so just one thought before the question. I've got a question there from Liz, but yeah, and with your whys, often when we write our topic guides or you're doing your engagement forms, what we're going to ask, how we're going to ask, allowing room for the why is really important. And with the qual, don't fall into thinking you have to have every sentence perfect, because you are going to ask those whys, and just reflect back the words that people are using to you to check. So you can't almost pre-write. A topic guide is a guide, it's not a survey, if that makes sense. And sometimes with our qual, we try and control it a little bit too much. So I love the 3 whys. Also, anyone out there, okay, come on, who's asked, do you like our logo, and then expect some sort of behavior change to follow?
Yeah, people spend too much time
really
on this, and design is absolutely important, you know, that perception, but yeah, there's more important questions to ask. And I think I saw someone maybe ask a question about getting buy-in for more time sensitive
Yes,
research. I think
yes. That
I
Liz.
think sometimes what I've tried to do in this book is give practical ways, like guerrilla techniques in a way, so you can maybe you've already got a research program in motion, and it's already the train has left the station and you can't really stop that, so you have to kind of just feeding in, ask if you can look at the question guide. Obviously, good researchers should be doing this anyway, but I think giving examples as well. The Market Research Society has got some great case studies on their website in different topics, different sectors, and I think they're always, have a browse and look at if there's anything that pulls out, because that can sometimes move the dial for senior leaders in terms of getting backing for research. Look at what they did, look at what they did differently and the outcome that they had. And sometimes it's about just grabbing conversations where you can, like if you are, it doesn't always have to be so organized and like a big process. It can be you sitting in the waiting room and just trying to, engaging a couple of patients, and then just doing that over a number of weeks. Your colleagues do the same, write a few notes down, and like a continuous commitment to understanding, and not just that, once a quarter we do a survey, that's it, tick box, we've done our community engagement, and just trying to be patient-centric or audience-centric in everything that you do, all the touch points, and it becomes then part of how you run your operations, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I also, just to add to that, if you've got opportunity with senior leaders or senior people, do the empathy mapping, and that will go out at the end for you, because it's when you do your empathy mapping, they join the dots themselves, realizing they don't actually know a lot of the answers. So the need to talk to your audience arises, and they kind of join the dots themselves. And then it doesn't have to be too extensive. And also, I would just say, from an inclusion perspective, just linking it back to values, like even if you break down population level stats and data, where is the voice of your primary, most important, most vulnerable groups? And if you can't see it, you've got to go out and get it. And it's just joining that up for them.
Yeah, and I do, somebody's asked a question about how do you make the question succinct, and I think there's a difference between when you're doing it in a qual scenario and actually having a face-to-face or like online conversation, where I think it's more, the environment's more leans towards being able to ask longer questions. If you're doing like a written and a survey form, there are kind of different techniques. You won't by default be able to go as deep as if you were talking to someone in terms of getting insight, but you can. There are many bad surveys out there, Ruth, and I'm sure you would agree, and there are ways that you can make them better. Like if you are trying to get more qual insight from a survey, like you only really can afford maybe 2 open-ended questions in a 10-question survey. The others have to be like multiple choice or quite quick. It's just that's just the expectation people have of the survey, unless you're maybe it's a deep survey and they're getting paid or things like that. But if you're just trying to get like patient surveys, my tips would be really like, keep it as short as possible, really put the most effort into the question design, and think through what decisions and actions do you want to take after asking this survey. Try and think back, like, okay, we could if we had like a creche, for example, what questions would we need to ask to find out whether that would be a good thing for the community? Or don't just because otherwise it's just interesting. We're not looking for just interesting insights. We're looking for actionable insights that really move the dial for the people that we're trying to support and help. And sometimes people, you get a survey and you think, you look at the responses, you're like, okay, yeah, and they quite liked that. I mean, that's wasting people's time, in my opinion.
Thank you so much. There's a question from Joanne White. She says about the scalability or the idea. So if we've got deep qual, will you be able to extract the insight and so it can be applied more broadly, regardless of demographic, if you're on 0 hours contract, the barriers will be the same. So for example, I guess this is about applying qual and the limitations and scalability of qualitative insights.
Yes, no, I think people make the mistake of thinking that you have to speak to like hundreds and hundreds of people for something to be relevant, especially in the qual space. I'm a firm believer of like identifying particular topics potentially for a particular demographic, so you're choosing the right people to speak to, but then really only speaking to between, I don't know, 7 and 12 people within that group. Obviously 7 12 people are not going to represent, you know, everyone in that group, but if you're choosing if you know you've got like 3 core demographics, for example, then, you know, even 5 to 7 interviews within each of those will be enough to start you know, seeing emerging trends or things that are overlapping. We like to think that everyone is very different and unique, and in many ways they are, but certain groups, a lot of human struggles and challenges around this are very common actually when we start diving into this. So I think sometimes senior leaders want to see, or we try and say, oh, we're going to speak to like, you know, 80 people. That's not really it's really not necessary to speak to that many people. Like you can do and it's proven in research that, you know, after 5 you'll start seeing very common themes, you know, if you've got a good questionnaire. So you have to design a research. I think, yeah, definitely make sure you're recruiting the right people for what you're trying to do, but be a bit more targeted, I suppose, instead of just saying, oh, we're going to improve everything. Maybe just slice things off. How can we improve things for, you know, single mums on low wage income, for example? Like what we're going to do to move the dial for them instead of what we're going to do to move the dial for everyone. There might be some common things for everyone, for sure, but then just kind of taking the smaller groups and smaller chunks.
Yeah. And just to link this to the inclusion, Katie, I think in health sometimes the value of qual gets linked to how many interviews you've done.
Yes, I know.
And then and it's like, oh, if we do more interviews, we get more for our money. And it's actually the opposite, because the analysis, we've got the behavior change frameworks. If you use the insight with your behavior change frameworks, you can literally, it's like dough, you can stretch your insights, and then that's when you can start scaling the insights quite easily. Because like you say, you've got your shared behaviors, so it comes
and
down
then you
to
can validate it on a bigger scale with a survey, for example. I think sometimes qual is a good place to start. You're starting to see emerging themes, then you scale it up, and then you can do a survey, which often costs less. You know, maybe it's digital, and it can be sent out to a wider group of people. And then the combination of those two will really give you a good understanding. And I think also not to forget like some of the guerrilla techniques that I think are very useful around, you know, forums and Reddit threads, and like, you know, we have tools now to help us digest huge chunks of information, and I think we should really go there and look at that publicly available information, whether it's on Facebook groups, and look at the emerging, you know, people talk online, you know, people share a lot online on threads, and it can be a really great place to find customer language or community language and put that into, you know, AI. Obviously you probably all have different policies around AI, but these tools are helping us digest and understand people faster, but they can't replace getting fresh insight for qual. I think that there's always going to be a place for that in research.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Right. We've gone up to the 12. Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you. I really enjoyed that.
Everyone get in touch with Katie. Katie has an amazing Substack as well. So we've got the book club, Brainfield Book Club over on Substack, and Katie has a brilliant, what's the name of it again?
It's called Jungle Juice.
Jungle Juice. Oh, I love it.
Oh, like quirky names. But yeah, I'll put the links in. I'll stay on it for a bit. Is there another talk after, Ruth?
There is. Yes, we have. So I'm going to hand over to Katherine now, who's going to introduce Alison. Yes, so straight over. Let's take a couple of minutes if anyone wants. Should we start? I think Oh, you're here. Oh, you're all here. You're all organised. We'll just take 2 minutes to get organised if people want to stretch and walk and things. And welcome. I'll hand over to Katherine and Alison. Are you there, Katherine and
Yes.
Alison? Oh, you're both there. Oh, see, it works now. See, I have no trust. I'm like, are you there? Is anyone there? And just before we move over, I wanted to reflect in the chat. Thank you to Eleanor and to me and everyone who's chatting in the chat about all of this. Amazing. Eleanor's a brilliant insight, and to me, I know you're doing incredible work in Reading, so thank you for that. Okay, Katherine, I'm going to turn off my mic and my camera and hand it over to you guys.
Brilliant, thanks. Right, thank you, Katie. That was really fascinating. Now we're heading over to hear from Alison Whitaker-Stewart about We Are Undefeatable in Blackburn and Darwin, and looking at storytelling. So it's kind of building on the last piece, but really understanding people in depth. And Alison is the Physical Activity Campaigns Lead for Together an Active Future. They're an organisation we've worked with our flagship programme actually in Burnley for the last sort of 6 years. They've been delivering Beat the Street and using it to build an entire new strategy for a whole town around an outdoor town. So we love working with them, TAF. They're one of the Sport England's place-based partners. So over the last 2 years, Alison's worked closely with the national We Are Undefeatable campaign to deliver a localised version in Blackburn with Darwin, followed by Healthy Hearts in Lancashire as well. And an integral feature of both campaigns has been Alison's commitment to amplifying the voice of local residents, especially those living with long-term conditions, and really empowering them to share their lived experiences to inspire others to be active. She's a chartered marketeer specialising in health promotion, stakeholder engagement and campaign development. So Alison, if you'd like to take over, I can see your slides perfectly. Welcome.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for inviting me to talk about the campaign today. I've really enjoyed listening to the other speakers this morning as well. So can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so let me go on to the next slide. Next slide. There we go. So we do have a video, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to show it all. Hopefully it'll work.
Did you want sound?
Oh.
The sound's not coming out.
Oh, is it not?
No, if you go back to share, just click at the top right, include sound. So just come out and pop back in. Look, I sound like an expert on Teams now, which is hilarious after today. But it is top right when you share.
Okay, let's move. More options.
Oh no, you have to come out.
I'll have to come out my whole presentation though.
Yeah, it's share. It's at the very start, unfortunately.
Okay, let me carry on the cut, and if people want to watch it afterwards, they can do. That's a shame. I had sound perfect, so I don't know why nobody else did.
I think it is worth
great
doing.
When it works, isn't it?
We've got time. It is worth
sure?
doing. Yeah, do it. Yeah, because it's so brilliant.
So come out. There we go. There we go. I think. There we go. Can you hear now? So it's gone to the next slide now. Let me share again. Sorry, I don't know why it won't let me. Let's go from here. Zoom slideshow. It won't let me move on to the next slide for some reason. I don't know why. Can you all hear me okay still?
There is a gremlin, I'm sure. Do you want to move on manually and then come back in?
Yeah, okay. So for the benefit of those who aren't aware, We Are Undefeatable is a national campaign. It's a campaign aimed to inspire people living with long-term health conditions to be more active, to help them improve their overall health and well-being. It's led by a consortium of 15 different leading health and social care charities. And whilst we focused on those obtaining stories from 16 local residents, we reflect on the conditions that the national charity partners support. So the storytellers that you saw in the video then live with angina, arthritis, asthma, anxiety, bronchiectasis, cancer, COPD, diabetes, dementia, motor neuron disease, Parkinson's, and in addition we've also got a few other conditions that aren't We Are Undefeatable conditions, such as a rare autoimmune disorder, endocrine condition and visual impairment. I'm going to go back to this screen hopefully. So the campaign was launched in June 2024 and the initial phase of the campaign ran for 3 months. But 2 years on, I'm delighted to say the campaign is still strong and has as much momentum as it did when it started. It's been embedded in Blackburn with Darwen Council's public health strategy and has been adopted by healthcare professionals, the PCNs and a wide range of organisations in Blackburn with Darwen. It's a multi-channel campaign and assets heavily featured on both social and digital channels, utilised council's owned out-of-home assets, printed publications, posters in GP surgeries and other healthcare settings, and in council-owned buildings. And importantly, it was shared by a wide variety of partners. So let me try and get it back. Can you see?
The video's showing. I've got it. Do you want me to share it for you?
Yeah, can you? There we go.
Oh, brilliant.
Brilliant. Okay, we got there in the end. So I could talk for a long time about this campaign. It's been absolutely fascinating to work on. It's probably been the highlight of my marketing career, to be fair. It's been a pleasure from start to date. But I'm just going to kind of touch on the top elements of it, and I'm going to share quite a lot of links with you later on in the Steele section. So what I would say before undertaking a campaign like this is just stop. Don't drive straight in. We spent a lot of time doing research, obtaining data, understanding that local picture and actually what was needed. So we did a joint strategic needs assessment at first, which identified all the local health and social care needs. And then we spoke to our public health data analysis, who supplied us with a really comprehensive profile of kind of Blackburn with Darwen's health complex health needs from the Aristotle system. If you don't have access to this, I'd say Fingertips is a really good source of public health information. We then collated and simplified all of this data and insights and created a RAG table, and the priority wards were based on their IMD, indices of multi deprivation score. This kind of gave us very quantitative information, but what we needed more. And through regularly attending the comms, insight and engagement meetings organised by the ICB, we obtained ward profiles of every ward in the borough from the Health Watch organisation. And this gave us some really fantastic qualitative insights about the challenges some of the residents in those individual wards face. We added 2 columns to our RAG table, the most prevalent health conditions in each ward and the demographics of those residents. And we then matched our storytellers according to that ward. This, it took quite some time, but it proved absolutely integral to the campaign delivery. We shared it with the agency. It determined which of the 50 bus stops the council owned we used and which storyteller went on there. It determined how we spent our budget, and ultimately it meant that our campaign was more effective. So when we evaluated the digital and social metrics, we got really strong completion rates. Nearly 15% of viewers watched 25% of the videos, which what you saw before was a compilation of all the videos. We created a 2-minute video for each storyteller, and 6% watched them all the way to the end. Now, it doesn't sound like a high number, but it really is. This suggests that the video content we created was really engaging and resonated well with the target audience. And what it also meant was that the cost per view was really low, maximising the budget's impact. So I think it's key to highlight, because we understood the audience of each ward by looking at that public health data and targeting them with appropriate and relevant content, it made our campaign so much more successful and cost effective. We also looked at data provided by the We Are Undefeatable national team, in particular their Bridging the Gap report, and this summarised public consultation to understand how better support people with long-term health conditions. And the data informed us that the NHS, GPs and healthcare professionals are the most trusted source of physical activity advice. And this also shaped the approach, because we had a 2-pronged approach. We had a kind of assets and content created for the general public, but we also did a specific element of the campaign for healthcare professionals. We created posters for them. We created a moving medicine pack for them. We spoke at all the different PCN meetings and really engaged them from the start. My second stop would be embed evaluation from the start. Really think about what you want to achieve and how you're going to measure it, and your campaign will be designed accordingly. By knowing what you want right at the beginning, you'll achieve strong participation. And I'd like to just touch on Katie's presentation. We did 2 different surveys. We did a survey to the general public. We did a survey for partners, but we got most of the insight and far more than numbers could tell us from 8 stakeholder interviews. A lot of the learning in our report is from some of those interviews. My next stop is evaluate what budget and capacity you have and tailor your campaign accordingly. So this whole campaign for We Are Undefeatable in Blackburn with Darwen, we had a budget of £50,000, which is a lot of money. And I appreciate not all areas have that resource available. So we needed extra budget because we evaluated what support we couldn't have right at the beginning. So I was hoping that my 2 colleagues, who were great with video and a graphic designer, would help create all the content for me. But when the more we went into the campaign, we realised that they didn't have the budget, they didn't have the capacity to do that. So we ended up outsourcing the creative and consequently needed more budget to do that. I would say for other areas wanting to replicate this sort of campaign, but on a much more limited budget, you could focus on the health conditions that are most prevalent to your area, rather than all the We Are Undefeatable conditions like we did. So if I was doing it again in Blackburn with Darwen, I'd be focusing on diabetes, mental health, cancer, heart and respiratory conditions. I've delivered another campaign this year that was mentioned, the Healthy Hearts in Lancashire campaign. We're over 9 different districts as opposed to 1. I didn't have enough budget for video for that, so we did a photo-led approach instead, and identify creating content specifically for that particular storyteller as opposed to the same content plan for all storytellers. And if it's not possible for you to create your local assets, then you can utilise some that we've created and are willing to share. And also the national team have created some budgets, but that's in the steel section. So if we go on now to the start. So one thing that we did was identify local partners from the start. And I went out to a lot of meetings in the January before the campaign was launched in the June. Those meetings were social lines prescribing groups, active Blackburn with Darwin groups, the ICB, comms and engagement networking groups. And I said, this is a campaign that's coming. It's coming in the summer. We want you to be involved. What can we do to support you in achieving your mission, and let's work together. So I work for Blackburn with Darwin Council. This campaign was something the public health team wanted to do, but it's not a council campaign. It hasn't got the council crest on any of the assets. When we intentionally did that so that the assets could be utilised by any of the partners, and they were more likely to share them. And they've been created not just to share within Blackburn with Darwin, but wider as well. So Sport England are very keen on us sharing the learning and sharing the resources for maximum capacity. So when we identify local partners early on, a lot of the local partners helped identify storytellers. So I didn't put a social media campaign out saying, oh, who'd like to be part of this campaign? What we did was went to the local partners, said what we wanted to achieve, and asked if they knew of anyone of their clients, anyone who accessed their services, who might be willing to take part. And that's how we gained our storytellers. And the fact that we paid all our storytellers as well, that was definitely incentive for organisations to ask their clients if they'd like to get involved. By involving the different organisations and them identifying storytellers, when we did create assets, they were very keen to amplify the message and share them on their channels. And many partners have utilised those assets we've created to raise their own profiles, use them to attract grant funding and such like. So it's been a win-win all round, really. Working collaboratively, collaboration has been the ultimate success of this campaign. I'm actually presenting about this campaign later on this afternoon, and I've got to talk about what do you think is the secret to success for this, and it is definitely the collaboration. We couldn't have had the reach and impacts that we've had without working with other partners for this. I would advise anyone doing a similar campaign to kind of definitely reach out to your local football club. They've been amazing in amplifying the message and across their channels, and to an audience that is definitely our target audience. They reshot the video to make it a little bit longer than we had done, and they shared it on match days. They put it in their program. That was really, really good. And then it went on to be shared by the EFL afterwards. That's the English Football League. Working collaboratively as well to be inclusive and accessible. So in that, we work with the Deaf Village Northwest, and because we had BSL interpretation of the videos on for 50% of the videos, the Deaf Village uploaded all those videos to their website and shared them all on social media. Now they have 11,000 followers alone, so our videos ultimately went to a new audience they probably wouldn't have reached beforehand because we did make them accessible. We also had 2 visually impaired storytellers that and we created audio versions of those videos. Because we created audio versions, the RNIB gave me access to their closed Facebook group to upload those videos to that channel, again reaching an audience we wouldn't have done before. I think I've learned so much from this campaign, particularly how to reach different audiences. So there was one lady called CIPR. She's the lady who dances in the video and also cycles, and she said to me, "Alison, you know, I'm really, really proud of this 2-minute video you've created, but it's not really shareable for me on my personal channels." She said, "I want to share it with my community." And she said, "But the ladies that I work with and ladies like me from Southeast Asian community, we don't really use Facebook and Instagram. We might use Reels sometimes, but we generally use WhatsApp and TikTok or, you know, short form video content. Is there any chance you can adapt the content so that I can share it on my own personal channels?" So we did. I went back to the videographer and said, please can you change these? And then one of the other CIPR, blind baseballer, said, "Alison, you know, can you do that with my content as well?" She said, "Because I'm in exactly the same position as the other CIPR." I was like, "Yeah, no problem, we can do that." Now, I didn't appreciate before I started this campaign that, and we wanted to go with Meta because it's easy to measure. It's kind of one of the council's preferred channels, but actually it wasn't reaching the target audience. So going forward, I would create a content plan for each of the storytellers based on their audience, based on their preferences. I think be able to reduce the budget by doing so as well. So Steel, as I mentioned, I'm funded by Sport England, and Sport England's culture is for us to share our learning so that impact can be wider. We've created a Share the Learning of Learning and Impact report. It's very comprehensive. It will hopefully answer any questions that you've got that I can't possibly cover in this amount of time. And you're more than welcome to read it. I'll post links in the chats afterwards. We appreciate that not everyone has the resource and capacity to create the assets we've done. So we've created a campaign pack, which you can visit our website and download all the different social assets we've created. You can utilise the videos we've created as well. The videos have backdrops that our local residents would recognise in there, but the photos, we've been very conscious so not to feature iconic landscapes so that they can be shared much wider. And the national team have also created a campaign hub where they've put templates together, and you can insert your own photos and insert your own text and insert your own logo as well. So those are definitely my steals from this. Yeah, if you've got any further questions, oh, here we are. Sorry, I should have clicked on those. Those are the campaign assets that We Are Undefeatable national team have created for others to use. And if you would like to find out more, scan the QR code, or you can get in touch with myself. All my details are there, or my colleague Peter Dutton, who sadly couldn't be with us today. So yeah, I think that's taking me up to 5 minutes left, and time for a few questions if anyone's got any. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Alison. Oh my goodness. Is Katherine around? Just check the chat. Great feedback from Kat here. Fascinating talk. Thank you. Interesting you paid your storytellers too. Do you mind sharing how much you paid them to take part and what the overall budget was for the campaign too?
So we paid our storytellers £250 each, and we didn't word it as a payment. We worded it as a token of our appreciation for their time and consent. It's interesting that some of the storytellers didn't want the money. They weren't doing it for money. They just wanted it to help inspire other people because they knew how much they benefited from it. I did ask them to take the money, and if they wanted to donate it, then they could do. Other storytellers were definitely kind of, inspired by the payments. But many of the storytellers can't work because of their conditions, or there's lots of additional pressures when you're living with some of these conditions. So we felt it was morally and ethically the right thing to do. The overall campaign budget was £52,000. That includes everything.
Thank you, Alison. Absolutely fascinating. I almost love how you shifted it to be about the storyteller, because in good marketing and comms, they always say to talk to the person as an individual, don't they? And that happens really naturally, but it also means that you know you're being inclusive, you know you're bringing the right people forward. Any other? I'm just checking the chat. Katherine, I know this is your area.
In terms of questions, I think that was the how much you asked you gave to the partners, to the storytellers, was the main question, and then there's some really good sharing of examples they've done, other people have done. So Justine Williams has developed a mental health campaign in collaboration with NHS, local authority, voluntary sector, and that's the same as you. The partnership approach has been really, really key. And how do charities get involved in the campaign?
So we in Blackburn with Darwin, I went out to speak to the different networking meetings, and the charities that were there who identified a storyteller approached me and said, I think I know someone who'd be great for this. What do I do next? I said, go and speak to that person, see if they are up for doing this and want to find out more. We were then introduced. I had a telephone call with that storyteller just to kind of say, this is what's expected. Does that sound okay? And then I went to meet them for a coffee and write up their story, and it went from there really. But I think are you based in Blackburn with Darwin? Is Backup based in Blackburn with Darwin? I think it will be contacting your local team, whoever that is, if they're considering doing a campaign like this.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Alison. And Katherine, did you have any reflections just from the physical activity space, how it works in synergy with what you do?
Yeah, I mean, just to say that I think it's brilliant and it's really good. And I think one of the key things is the benefit of sharing that good practice and spreading it rather than having to start from scratch. I think that's a really valuable thing that the place-based working's doing. You don't have to start from scratch each time. You can learn and replicate or tailor to your own area and your own needs. It's really good. So great to hear it. Thanks, Alison.
Welcome.
Yay, thank you so much, Alison. Honestly, so inspiring. And we'll move on now to Paul, but please hang around in the chat, Alison, for any further questions or just to connect in. And I see you've been popping some links in there as well. So thank you. So we're moving on to our final session. There's not been that many book completions, so please do pop your evaluation form in now. We're going to shift to chatting with Paul, but don't worry about that. don't worry until the end of him. Sorry, Paul. Are you there, Paul? Don't worry about just filling the evaluation form in at the end, because we really want to do the book giveaway live. I'm going to come in and just say, give me a number 1 to so-and-so, and whoever is first in the chat, I'll check that number according to the completion form. Whatever that number is wins the books. That's it. So don't forget, we've got the Do Penguins Eat Peaches? We've got the Marketing and Psychology book, we've got Advita's book, and we've got the Brain Fuel reading journal. So because there's just so much to capture, isn't there? When we were working on the Brain Fuel book club and we were doing our slightly mad bonkers 50 ways to reclaim your brain year-long challenge, which has actually fried our brains, and we're going to pop it actually a vote. If you could go in and vote for the next few books, that would be much appreciated. There's no way we can do the challenge on our own, but there's just so much, isn't there? So not starting from scratch, as Alison has shared, is not, you know, is such a way to bridge the gap with inclusion even more, because you can focus on, who it is that you need. So you can focus on actually making sure inclusion is the center and the driving force, because everything else is done. So how can we join the book club? So George will put the book club, it's on, so we just started it, it's free for everyone. It's just where we're moving all the behavior change and marketing boot camp training in. So we're just moving things slowly over there and bringing everything together. It's on Substack, and every week you just get a different way to look at your brain. Now, the reason we are doing it goes back to Tom and Luan's session. The reason we are doing it through personal, like, how can you reclaim your brain as a professional working in this space, is because when we did our training, where we've trained so many people over the last 5 years, we really flagged up the most important bit of all of this learning, of everything we've been doing today, is you. How you feel, how cognitively stressed you are, or how cognitively wonderful you are. As in, we live on screens. We consume so much information. Digital has changed everything, and we work in roles where it really does impact on us. So understanding how it impacts on us is massive, and it's a really fun, easy way to learn behavioral science without sitting down and going, you know, I'm learning behavioral science now, because actually everything we do is so relevant for all of our audiences, as Tom and Luan showed this morning. So it is a bit of fun. And yeah, it's a book club. We love books. So we're doing it 1 book per week. So it's just some fun, but we can't do it on our own because we've realised that 50 is too many. So do join and hop over and vote and recommend some books. And if you want to do a takeover and write an article, then you're very welcome at this point. But Paul, are you there? Could you come on camera if you are?
Hello.
Yay, Paul! I can see you there. Brilliant. So thank you so much for coming, Paul. You're the final part of a hugely immense session. And it has been really incredible. People have just been doing so much. So we have got 20 minutes now, and then we will do the prize draw. I mean, I do have your bio here, but Paul, are you kind of happy to introduce yourself? And then we would just do a little bit of a chat for everyone, because basically Paul is here as our container, because he's got this incredible job running this incredible network that is advancing everything we've been talking about today. So please do introduce yourself, Paul.
Thank you. Very nice to be here. And yeah, it looks like you've had a great session. So I am Paul Chadwick. I am a clinical psychologist by training, which means I started my career a long time ago, back in St Mary's Hospital in London, where I was kind of working with individuals, and I became really interested in behavior change because I my job was at the time to work with people who had my job was to diagnose whether or not HIV had gotten into the brain, and if that was the case, support people in the last 6 months of their life and their family. And then what happened is that antiretroviral therapies came around, and all of those people that I'd helped prepare for the end of life were suddenly experienced an extraordinary physical renewal. And the key to that renewal was taking the medication as prescribed. But very interestingly, not everyone took medication as prescribed. And I became really interested in why that was the case, which led me into theories of behavior change applied both kind of at the individual level, but also at the population level, because I began to apply that to obesity. And so I basically kind of tried to, I became the director of the UCL Centre for Behaviour Change. I was deputy director of the UCL Centre for Behaviour Change, and now the director of the Behavioural Science in Public Health Network, because I realised that these insights from the behavioural and social sciences are so critical to delivering effective, accessible and equitable kind of human public sector services that we kind of need everybody to know about this. And so the goal of the BSPHN, our reason for existing, is to promote awareness and use of behavioural and social science in public sector service delivery. And I guess that's why I'm here today, to kind of champion what Ruth is doing and what you're interested in, and I suppose make a bit of a plea for thinking about the ways in which behavioural and social sciences can help with inclusion.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Paul. And yeah, it's been an incredible morning. We started off with Tom and Luan looking at, actually, Tom was even talking about system 1 and system 2, understanding our decision making and where the biases fit in there, and simply the need to understand of all these influences that are consciously and subconsciously impacting us all the time. And then we moved across to at scale. Katherine looked at inclusion, taking inclusion at scale, so bringing everyone with us, because we haven't always been great at that. And then Elisabete went into building trust for marginalised communities, so deep. And then Katie, a very powerful session. Katie is amazing health market researcher on how to ask good questions, which is a key skill. And it doesn't have to be a behavioural scientist, does it, that does that? That is a commissioner, communicator, marketer, service design officer, everyone. And then we just finished with Alison, who did incredible, the We Are Undefeatables. So local application, using storytelling, which actually interesting Tom mentioned. So it's just as a big recap of the morning, that's what we've all been talking about. So from your perspective in this fireside chat, what do you think, how would you describe inclusion from a behavioural science perspective? What does it actually mean?
Yeah, I love the concept of a fireside chat. I feel as though I should have a smoking jacket and a Negroni.
We need to change the background.
I know, I know.
We need a cat. We need a cat to walk across right now.
We do. So, before I answer the inclusion question, well, actually, it is an inclusion issue. I think that thing that you said is really, really important. That what I always say is I've got probably 10 years in higher education to kind of call myself a psychologist and a behavioural scientist. But you don't want people like me running the world. But what I always say is that the vast amount of attempts to change behaviour in the world are not done by professional psychologists or professional behavioural scientists with PhDs. They're done with people in roles, in kind of public sector roles, with deep understanding of the public sector and the communities that they're working with. and I think just adding a bit of behavioral science zhuzh to that work can benefit, can produce kind of real rewards. And so behavioral science is for everyone, inclusion, regardless of kind of your kind of professional training. But the BS, what I think the question was, just reminding myself of that, what does behavioral science look like from a what does inclusion look like from a behavioral science perspective? I think it's a complicated answer, as psychologists tend to give, but the short answer is inclusion is about making sure that our public sector services are configured in such a way to ensure that this kind of fairer, healthier society is achievable for everyone, no matter where your background, your kind of background. And the behavioral science angle means that that can only be achieved if we really understand what's driving human behavior, so that we can identify, change and kind of reshape both the internal and external conditions that prevent people from accessing services or engaging with the people that design services, or kind of make use of what's available. And I think importantly, this doesn't mean locating the source of the problem within the individual, and their thoughts and their beliefs and their values. It's rather about understanding the ways that those thoughts, beliefs, values kind of are shaped by the context and the systems that are embedded within the history, the geography of an area, the kind of culture that kind of show up in the way people behave. And I think we can turn that lens to the people that we're trying to include, but we can also turn that lens on ourselves as providers to kind of help us think about what ideas we have and how our contexts shape the work that we do. And frameworks from behavioral science are really kind of like these things we've developed. So things like the behavior change wheel, East, Mindspace, System 1, System 2, all of those, they're there to make behavioral science insights accessible, so that we can meaningfully engage with communities, understand the barriers and facilitators they face, and devise practical and, importantly, evaluatable interventions to change these.
I love what you just said there about, I've just written it down, about how, as providers, as working in this field, we also shape the context. And we've been looking a lot at that, well, a little bit, in a very relaxed fashion, I have to say, over in the Brain Fuel Book Club. But could you explore that just a little bit more? Because I think that's such a powerful thing, especially in health. If we reflect on our own health when we're making decisions for populations. And
well, a really interesting, going back to the thing you said when you were introducing me, is the importance of ourselves, looking at ourselves, and books. Okay, so there's some really, recently I realized that my ability to read had been shot to pieces by my academic career, and always reading and the pressures of personal and professional life. And I realized that I trained my mind to skim read everything, to access or extract the key bit of value from every text. And I used to love reading, and I stopped loving it. So last year, I started on a personal project of trying to fall in love with reading again. And I did that by teaching myself to read in the way I used to teach my kids to read. So, like sounding out almost. And I read, me being me, I read lots of literature on this. But what it showed you, when you look at things from a cognitive neuropsychological perspective, there are big differences between reading a book and reading on screen, even a Kindle. And one of those differences is the way in which it activates, reading on a page activates the empathy centers on the brain in very subtle but different ways that aren't activated when you read on a screen. So coming back to this point about personal and professional, what we believe at the BSPHN is the personal is always professional. How we understand our world and there's a technical term for this. It's called reflexivity, not reflectiveness, and reflexivity. And it's about kind of understanding how the ways we kind of our understanding of the world and our actions in it shape the world that we're trying to influence. And I don't think we do enough of that in behavioral science. We assume, and so it encourages us by reflecting on ourselves and our experiences, because when we work in public health, drinking, smoking, overeating, not taking enough exercise, just the kind of the big four. If we delve deeply into our own kind of subjectivity about why we can't really do this, I think we'll probably get more interesting insights than by reading the latest kind of very highly educated tome on something. And it may make us think about how we're approaching those questions in our work with others. So I'm a big fan of integrating the lived experience element of our personal lives with our professional lives and finding a way to bring these two together. That's called reflexivity. And I think it's kind of the hallmark of really good behavioral science. And it's more a feature, interestingly, of more socially orientated behavioral science than it is of more psychological behavioral science, where we tended to make subjectivity a bad, we've given it a bad name, and I think that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and so Paul, because we've mentioned behavioural science a lot, and I think when we did our bootcamp training, there's a lot of assumption that you need to be a behavioural scientist, go off and get your master's in behavioural science to use behavioural science. And we always used to say, well, if you want to be a behavioural scientist, then yes, you do need to go off. But if you want to apply the research that those wonderful, kind behavioural scientists have gone off and done for you, do, because actually, if no one uses this research, applies it in the real world, then what's the point in the research? And so I know that the network is called the Behavioural Science and Public Health Network, but you don't have to be a behavioural scientist, do you? I mean, everyone here, we have probably got none on the line. Of the 270 that signed up, I don't think we've probably one or two. So, but actually, this network is for everyone that signed up.
It is. So we have two people that we're trying to work with and actually bring together. And so the BSPHN is basically, it's a community of practice. And we would like to bring together the nerds in behavioral science. So people like me who've done lots of degrees in them and are kind of, practiced in universities, and the practitioners, the people using behavioral science, who are by far the wider group, and who actually have some of the most interesting insights. I think the most interesting work in behavior change is being done on the ground, not by often the people in academic institutions. And that's why we exist. We exist to bring those two communities together to learn from each other and share best practice, but also to elevate the voice and insights of the person who is applying behavioral science, because it's an applied discipline and it's a practice. You do something and you learn something from that practice that you then should kind of reflect on and make changes to the next time you do it. So we're for anybody who wants to use behavioral science, and we run events throughout the year, basically, I suppose, our big annual conference for people to see the work of their peers. And one of our aims is really to reduce replication as well, because there's a lot of replication for behavioral science. In behavioral science, a lot of people reinventing the wheel in different communities, and sometimes we need to go deep into the particular community that we're looking to support, but we can also learn a lot from what's been done in other areas.
Yeah. So thank you, Paul. Honestly, I couldn't encourage everyone more to get in touch. You just had your national conference, haven't you? Where there was dozens and dozens of posters being shared of local best practice. Loads of learning, loads of sharing. Is there anything coming up with inclusion specifically, or would you just say it's a value that underpins everything? And what's the first step for people to get involved?
Okay, so I think it's kind of underpins everything that we do, although we are looking to do an event this year and we're just kind of working out that on behavioral science and health equity.
Yay.
Because there's so many ways in which behavioral science can be applied to support efforts to improve, to reduce disparities, basically. So we want to do some work on showcasing that. So if you've got work, and we don't want to just have some very learned professor talking, you know, we know we know there's disparities, right? I'm so bored of hearing about, I'm not bored of hearing about them, but I'm bored of them being re-described to me. What I want to know, what will bore me, not bore me at all, is work that has been done on reducing those disparities. So if anybody in the audience has behaviorally sciencey informed work that they think they could showcase, then do contact us. The best way to contact us is through kind of our newsletter, sign up to our newsletter, but also follow us on LinkedIn. And I think the other thing is that we are like a community, so don't wait for us to proclaim upon high about what's important. Actually, if you've got an idea you think behavioral science could use, or you want to make connections in this area, you use us to make connections in this area, get in touch with me, talk to me about what it is that you want and you need, and we can kind of, a lot of our work is done from the grassroots upwards because we're for practitioners. So if people have a vision and we can help deliver that vision through our resources and networks, then do speak to us.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Paul. Honestly, you're such a perfect ending to a wonderful morning, because we've literally come to the end and it's like this network is here to support everyone take everything they've learned forward. So we're going to move on to the book draw now. There's lots of links in the chat going in for everyone, and we've got a couple of minutes and then it's the end of the morning. We will finish on time, but just a huge thank you for taking your time out today. Really appreciate you. Do a wave goodbye. We definitely need, like, if we do this again, a clap or a sound, don't we, to signal transition for everyone. But it is book giveaway time for everyone. So thank you, Paul. Firstly, before, a huge thank you to the speakers. Huge thank you to you for jumping ship, changing tech with us. To choose the type from, it's called Typeform, that's what we use, to choose who the winner is, drum roll, we just need a number. So literally, I'm going to say a question. Whoever answers first in the chat will win, but it's not your name. So I'll just ask you, please, for a number between 1 and 54, and whoever is that number on the responses will win. Oh, so looks like first. Oh, Joe was first. 7. And who is 7? Hold on, let's find out. Sorry, doing this in real time, folks. Oh, got lots of 7s there. 1, 2, 3, 4. And oh my God, can we do another number? Because Katherine, it's you. And we can't do Katherine? Okay, gonna draw it again. Sorry, Catherine's the speaker. She won't mind. She won't mind. Let's go. Another number, please. Okay, I've got coming up here. Okay, so I'm going to go backwards just for ease. 37. Bear with me, folks. I shouldn't have chosen 37, it's too far. And the answer is, oh, hold on. Ben Hallett. Ben is the winner. So Ben, thank you so much for completing the form. Ben, we will get in touch with you if you're still online. Big clap to you. And we will send you all these books for you to share with your colleagues and whatnot. Woohoo! Congratulations, Ben. But actually today, everyone, look, we're going to send you everything. So we're going to send you all the videos. We're going to send you the empathy mapping so you can get these conversations started, and we're also going to chuck in our behavior change marketing bootcamp module 1 training so you can use it. Now, the reason we keep that in presentation form for you is for you to use it. So there's been loads of questions about how do we get our senior leaders to do this, how can we take it forward, and often you have to convince internally. We know that. So that's why we give it in presentation, because we just want you to use it. So your ultimate steal is just steal it, because it explains behavior change and everything. You don't even have to write the slides. We're so happy. We just want everyone out there doing it. We don't, you can take our logo off, put your logo on, everything. But thank you so much to everyone for joining, being patient, and everyone. Honestly, I really feel like shifting towards creating better health for everyone is how we get true inclusion, and things like this really you know, just prioritize inclusion, keeping it front of mind. And actually, if you do want to share any stop start steals with us, we'd love to hear from you as well. I hope that format helped you cement the micro learnings too. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ruth.
Oh, thanks, Alison.
Bye-bye.